sport,
For the love of the game.
today we celebrate the power of radio to inform, inspire, and connect the world under the theme Radio and Artificial Intelligence, where timeless storytelling meets the future of innovation. This is World Radio Day, a reminder for the voices that bring us closer, the stories that shape our lives, and the conversations that matter. At SAFM, we are proud to be your trusted companion, keeping you informed and engaged every single day. Happy World Radio Day from SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
I can tell you the former Statistician General Padi Lehotla is my guest on the Friday Fireside Chat from 5 to 6. So set your alarms now. You must listen to that. Should be fascinating, okay? Well, of course, we'll talk about the SONA, and you can give me your one word even now that best encapsulates the SONA, yesterday's SONA, for you. WhatsApp us right away. You can tweet it out to hashtag the National Pulse. We'll take calls when we get the chance later on. But for now, we need to get right in touch with the goings-on at the Madlanga Commission, and the witness is the IPID's Tulani Magagula. That's IPID being the Independent Police Investigative Directorate. So let's get right away back to the Madlanga Commission.
MPD was fully informed by March 23. Worst case scenario, by August 2023, they were aware.
Yes.
Is that your case?
Yes.
Do you still intend then to file a negative report in respect of these two officers, one of whom, of course, we now learn is no longer an officer because she has resigned or retired?
Yes, we are still going to file the report. Immediately after obtaining the honest statement of Brigadier Julius Mkwanazi, I filed both reports, DPP and EMPD, because my investigation will be finalized.
And what would be your response if you were to learn that the EMPD has taken no steps against any of the implicated officers on the basis that they are awaiting an IPID report?
I will not be surprised, even if we have filed the report in time. The file will gather dust in their office until we win our case criminally. And then they will take glory that they have successfully completed, while it is because of IPID criminal investigation. As I said earlier, majority of those departmental that were successful, it was not due to their departmental step that they have taken. They are dependent on the criminal outcome.
Thank you. Commissioners, unless there are further questions, I think this is as far as we take this particular case.
Can I? Yeah. Ms. Ilo, the references that you've made to these screen grabs or these WhatsApp messages. Yeah.
Yes, Commissioner.
Yeah, that you say are evidence of EMPD, at least space, being informed about this Rosebank incident. I'm not sure it does that, Mr. Makakula.
Commissioner, if I may, perhaps I misspoke. It wasn't so much that it's evidence of, EMPD having full knowledge. Mr. Magagula had referenced telephonic communication and WhatsApp messages with senior members of EMPD regarding the searching of Mackenzie's vehicle, where he says he recovered some of these stones. It's in that context I then referred him to TLM 12. Okay. So I wouldn't want him to think that I said he claimed that is conclusive evidence.
Yes,
okay.
So you were not saying that this is evidence that the MPD became aware
Indeed.
of the
Yes.
Rosebank incident.
Yes, I referred him to that based on on his allegation that he was in contact, and in particular in regard to the search of Mackenzie's vehicle,
Yes, I
from
understand.
which they recovered these items.
I understand that. Okay, I'll leave it. I had wanted, if you were saying that, I had wanted to say, actually, it seems that you do have other better pages that may well have been an indicator of this communication. If you look at 616, for example, there are references to Kilani, and Kilani is a suburb, not a police station area. So it sort of suggests that some communication, but I think this is in July, if I'm not mistaken. No, it's in April. But I'm not taking it any further.
I would think that perhaps it might be appropriate to do so, because I think it buttresses what Mr. Magagula says. When one looks at these messages as Mr. Magagula provided them after taking screen grabs, they are not necessarily in the right order. You can tell from the date or the start or end of one message. So if 616, I think, supports his version, it would only be fair to draw that to his attention and place it on record.
Yeah.
Mr. Magagula, Commissioner Baloyi is talking about other messages that perhaps speak to the fact that EMPD members, and in particular in this instance, Commissioner Spies, because this is your communication with Commissioner Spies, became aware of this matter as early as perhaps July or so 2023. And in this regard, I would like to refer you to page 616 of that file we're looking at, which are the screen grabs of your communication with Commissioner Spies. Do you see that?
Yes.
And so if you're at 616, then please listen to Commissioner Baloyi.
No, all I was saying, Mr. Magagula, is that my initial concern to your discussion with Ms. Selo was that you were referring to those stones, to those WhatsApp messages which show stones as part of evidence that Ekurhuleni became aware, EMPD became aware of the Rosebank incident itself. And I thought if you actually look at other pages, there seems to have been better evidence that you were speaking to Commissioner Spies about this Kilani incident. That's all I wanted to point out.
Yes, Kilani is the
Yes.
is the resident of the victim.
Yes. All right. I have a different question, though. You say you are still going to be filing a recommendation. You say you're still going to submit a report and recommendation. This incident is in 2023.
Yes.
You become aware of it in 2023, I think about March or thereabouts.
Yes.
You have statements from the complainant, and I think a statement from Stolz, early on. We are in 2026. How is it, what is the explanation that, I know that you got another statement from Stolz, not Stolz, Mackenzie, in January 26. You're still going to be getting a statement from Brigadier Mkhwanazi. But with what you've got in a complainant's statement, what is the explanation that it has taken so long to get you to the point where you are able to, or you should be able to make a recommendation to the municipality?
The recommendation is made after the completion of the case itself, both DPP and EMPD. I acknowledge the delay on the investigation part, but the report to EMPD, as I stated previously, it goes together, those one.
And has this been to the prosecutor, is it DPP or
And not
this,
yet.
this docket? It hasn't.
Yes.
Okay. How do you explain the delay? You say acknowledge the delay in the investigation. What are the reasons that there has been a delay in the investigation?
The delay on investigation is based on the fact of the 727 cases and all other activities that I was doing.
Yes. So it's the workload
Yeah, it's
that
the
you are carrying.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Baloyi. Mr. Magagula, then that concludes your testimony on the precious stones matter. If you could turn to page 16 of your statement. At page 16 from paragraph 68, you deal with what you term Boksburg North CAS 241/03/2024. Do you see that?
Yes.
Could you please take the commissioners through the detail of that case? And then we will talk about the status of that particular case. Thank you.
Boksburg North case 241 of 3/2024. This case involves alleged extortion by members of the EMPD of an amount of 120,000 from a foreigner who at the time was visiting South Africa. A copy of this docket is attached as Annexure TLM4.
Mr. Magagula, apologies. Let us locate TLM4 because we'll be making reference to it. That is now in the second file, big file, marked 3 of 3. The first document should be your Annexure TLM4. Have you located it?
Yes.
Okay, give Commissioner Khumalo a sec. Okay, we have all found our TLM4. Then you can take it from paragraph 69.
On 5 March 2024, at approximately 11:55, the complainant was stopped by members of the EMPD driving an unmarked BMW in Springfield Road, Boksburg, after he had exited a housing estate. The officer demanded that the complainant produce identification. The complainant provided his Congolese passport. The officers informed him that they intended to verify his passport at Boksburg Home Affairs. The officers accompanied the complainant to Home Affairs where they presented his passport to an official while speaking amongst themselves in their native language. Upon returning, the officers informed the complainant that Home Affairs was closed. They then demanded to accompany the complainant to his residence. The complainant refused, but the officers forced him to his home and conducted a search of his residence without a warrant. The complainant alleges that these actions were unlawful, including the detention force. Let me read it again. The complainant alleges that these actions were unlawful, including the detention, force, accompaniment to his residence, and their warrantless search of his property.
Perhaps let me assist you. Your paragraph 71 reads, the complainant alleges that these actions were unlawful, including the detention, forced accompaniment to his residence, and the warrantless search of his property.
Yes.
Did I read it correctly? Yes?
On 23 October 2024, I received directives from the DPP concerning this matter, which I addressed and submitted a report to the DPP.
Okay, now, you had referred us to TLM4, and I said it starts at page 361 of the second bundle of your annexures. Can you identify for the record the document that starts at 361? I apologize, it doesn't start at 3, it's at 351, that's where it starts.
Sorry?
It starts at 351. And I had wanted to refer you to page 361 and ask you to identify what that document is.
Yes. 361, I have a photo album.
And if we then go back, again, it appears like it's the problem of the order in which these are filed in the docket. That document, the page 361 appears like it ought to be followed by 357 to 360. That would appear to be the actual report from the forensic laboratory. At page 358, the captain who undertook this analysis, the analysis of this, the evidence, Captain Ndoi, at 358, he confirms that he received at item 3.1 an evidence bag with that seal number marked Boxback North, and it contained 14 GB USB, not marked with a serial number. And that he was requested to enhance the images on that USB and to create a photo album. At page 358, still paragraph 7, he then lists the pictures that he extracted from that USB and enhanced. It's about 14 pictures, and he concludes by saying these images are contained in the photo album accompanying this affirmation. Do you see where I'm reading, Mr. Magagun?
Yes.
So the actual pictures then, because in fact, it would appear 361 is the page that is misfiled, because it's the start of that report. It starts at 362. Now, these are the pictures that Captain Doi returned to you in this matter after he had done his analysis. We're going to put up these pictures and you help us identify what's in them. This is the first picture. What are we looking at?
This is the vehicle of Metropolis identified by the victim in his statement that he was stopped by a BMW.
It's the BMW that you state at paragraph 69 stopped the victim.
Yes.
Now you say at approximately 11:55, that is during the day, just before midday.
Yes.
In Springfield Road in Boxback.
Yes.
We'll move to the next set of pictures.
I want to clarify something.
Yes, please do,
Mr.
by all means.
These pictures now are in the residence of the complainant. It's the estate now, not in the street. This video footage is in the estate.
Okay. The next page has got 4 pictures. It would appear it's this, still the same vehicle that is...
This is the second vehicle of Metropolis.
Okay, the first...
Commission for now, because we need to get up to date with the news headlines. Here is Ondela Mbana.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the news headlines, the South African Farmers Development Association says it is concerned about the latest developments regarding Tonga Tulip, which has filed for provisional liquidation. Lukhanyo Galata has called for the TRC cases inquiry to subpoena former presidents Thabo Mbeki and Jacob Zuma to come answer for their failings with regards to the investigation and prosecution of TRC cases. And UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has called on African leaders to push for the transformation of the multilateral system. A full update for those at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound in central Johannesburg, slow moving towards Crown Interchange. On the M2, there are delays between Crown Interchange and Main Reef Road, and Eskempatleli Drive northbound in Pretoria has delays towards Mood Street. In KZN, the M7 eastbound has a crash at the N2 highway, the N3 westbound queuing towards Cliffdale and Umgeni Road westbound, slow moving through Springfield Park. In Cape Town, the N1 outbound slow moving on Plattekloof Hill, Victoria Road is slow moving through Camps Bay, and Albert Road outbound slow moving through Woodstock. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
Jimmy, there's been lots of talk about the Cricket World Cup T20, but you want to talk about the CAF Confederations Cup, right?
Yes, a very good afternoon to you, Ashraf, and our listeners. Well, former Kaizer Chiefs captain Itumeleng Khune believes that the team has worked hard enough in this season's CAF Confederations Cup and has no doubt that they will qualify for the knockout stage. Chiefs settled in Egypt yesterday and they held their first training session ahead of their all-important final Group D fixture against the African giants Zamalek tomorrow. Now, the Soweto Giants lead the group with 10 points ahead of Zamalek on 8 points, and Al Hilal, Al Mazri on 7 points and need only a draw. But Khune believes even a win is possible.
No, what's key is for Kaizer Chiefs to go away to Zamalek and come back with 3 points. I remember there's permutations, your head-to-head, like they don't need to go out there and think of a draw. But Kaizer Chiefs' mentality should be we are going away to Zamalek to come back with full 3 points and win the game convincingly.
In other CAF Confed fixtures, Stellenbosch take on Singida Black Stars in a dead rubber. And then Mamelodi Sundowns are also on continental duty this weekend. They face former coach Rulani Mokwena's MC Alger at Loftus Versfeld tomorrow in the CAF Champions League. And Sundowns defender Grant Kekana says that it's arguably the most important match of their career.
Yeah, it's a different feeling, a different challenge, but one that we're ready for. I think, a lot of us have been at Sundowns for quite some time, and we understand what's at stake. So for us, it's just to go into the game on Saturday as well prepared as possible, to go out there and do our best. I think the one advantage we have is that it's our home game. So obviously we're going to urge our supporters to come out there in numbers because we're going to need them as our 12th man. It's going to be difficult like all Champions League games, but we'll be up for it.
Well, the Brazilians are third in Group C, 2 points behind Al Hilal and a point behind second place Alger. And Downs need a win to advance to the next round, while MC Alger just need a draw or a win. Elsewhere, Liverpool manager Arne Slot says that the club are closely monitoring player workloads to avoid further injuries during a congested run of fixtures. Midfielder Wataru Endo suffered an ankle injury in Wednesday's 1-0 win over Sunderland, and they also face a lengthy spell out, adding a growing list of absentees that already includes the like of Conor Bradley and Jeremy Frimpong. Now, Liverpool sits sixth in the Premier League on 42 points, 13 behind leaders Arsenal, but have already secured a direct place in Champions League playoffs with a top 8 finish. In cricket, Zimbabwe caused a major upset at the T20 World Cup in Colombo today, beating Australia by 23 runs. Now, Zimbabwe scored 169 for 2 in their 20 overs, thanks largely to an unbeaten 64 from Brian Burnett. In reply, Australia struggled from the start. They were reduced to 29 for 4 after early wickets, and Australia were eventually bowled out for 146 in 19 overs. This one is definitely a big deal because Zimbabwe are currently ranked 11th in the world, and they beat second-ranked Australia in the Group B match. In terms of tennis, Ben Shelton battled past veteran Frenchman Adrian Manarino to reach the Dallas Open quarterfinals. The American second seed edged a tense contest 6-6, 6-7 and 6-3 in a match lasting 2 hours and 40 minutes. And next up for Sal Shelton, It's between the winner of Tommy Paul or Memua for a place in the semi-finals. On that note, it is a wrap from my side for now. I'll have more in the next hour.
Perfect. Thanks for that, Chumi. Yeah, let's see big expectations for Kaizer Chiefs indeed.
You are listening to the Madlanga Commission live on SAFM.
Right, let's get.
But I'm looking at your file, your TLM5. It's got something else.
512.
512, not 511. 511 is not part of TLM5. So that big file we're just looking at now with the money picture.
Yes.
If you go to page 512. This, in my file, reads as EMPD memorandum addressed to the Chief of Metro Police, Ekurhuleni Metropolitan.
It's 5-1.
512. The top right, red number.
Yes, I got it.
So I say this as the EMPD memorandum addressed to the Chief of Metro Police, Ekurhuleni Metropolitan Police Department, and it's from IPID. And if you, the last page of that document is 516. Commissioners, if you could move that annexure numbering, the page that marks 5.1, it's supposed to come after 516. The EMPD report runs up to 516, and then annexure 5.1 starts thereafter. Please go to page 516.
Yes,
And I see that is it's got a conclusion, and it's signed by you and dated 26 September 2024.
yes.
And once again, it's supported by the provincial head of Gauteng, IPID. This, as Ms. Masuku explained to us yesterday, the top right corner at page, that stamp at page 512, that is confirmation of receipt of this report.
Yes.
By the intended addressee. And I see the service was effected on the 3rd of October 2024. Can you just, the document itself, it invokes section 21(1)(g) of IPID Act. That's what it says, the classification of this matter.
Yes.
And you give the reference number, the box spec number, and you say it's a corruption case.
Yes.
Next to reference. And you state the offense is one of corruption. Then you list the members against whom you say a charge of corruption is preferable. Can you read those, can you inform the commissioners as to who those members are?
These members are members of EMPD who are suspect on this matter. MPO FI Shirinda, MPO JL Taba, MPO JG Yika, MPO City Ngubeni. This is a female.
Okay.
Ngubeni. MPO K Seisa, MPO GR Neloheni. So the total is 6 members.
The 6 MPD, and these are all EMPD members?
These are all 6 EMPD members. At the time, they were working under special service. That unit that falls under Brigadier Mkwanas.
And if you go to page 513 of the same document, overleaf, the same names are repeated in the table under item 2.3. You see that?
Yes.
Now you list them at 2.3, and then there's a ref. Can you read the statement below that table where you say all these members are?
analysis or on
No,
513?
2.3 at page 513.
Please find attached the original contents of the docket, case docket CCN 2024 containing the following information.
And then you list all the very members whose detail you just read out,
Yes,
together with their personal numbers.
yes.
And then below that, there is an entry. Please read that into the record.
Please find attached copies of the content of IP case docket.
No, before that, just immediately
Oh,
under
yes,
the table. You say these, you are talking about these members. there.
Okay, yeah, I see, I jumped.
Yes.
Let me start there. Please find attached the original contents of IP, a case docket CCN 2024 containing the following information members mentioned attached to the drug unit, Ekurhuleni Metropolitan Police Department. This drug unit fall in that specialized unit.
The specialized unit that you say is overseen by Brigadier Mkonazi.
Yes.
Okay. So then we've taken care of referral to EMPD
Yes.
in this matter.
Yes.
Do you know what became of this, if anything?
Departmental.
Yes.
Departmentally, I can say they have opened the DR, the
No, we don't know what a DR is.
disciplinary hearing.
Okay.
They have opened it, and I can say nothing has been done, even though they have received it. The only thing that they are crying for now, which when Mrs. Mutsipe comes here, she will still deny. I have communication. They are not proceeding because they do not have a video footage. They are looking for video footage. So they brought a video footage. They brought a stick to me. So I told them that, okay, I'm waiting for my my IT, our lady who is assisting us in Gauteng. She's based in Pretoria National Office, so sometimes she comes to Johannesburg. So I told Binel Mutsepe that as soon as she comes to Johannesburg, I will ask her to download that video footage for you. But I further advise her that I have the photo album, I can provide you with this photo album. But you must know the purpose of the video footage. The video footage is not to see someone stealing. The video footage was for the purpose of seeing these people in the residence of the victim, not to see the people stealing 120,000. So when you ask something, you must know the objective of it. What do you want for that? So if you do not know what you are looking for, which means you don't know what we are doing.
Thank you. Staying then with your paragraph 73, we have dealt with annexure TLM5, which is your EMPD referral report, correct?
Yeah.
You introduce another document there, you've marked TLM 5.1, and you say the DPP issued directives on 23rd October 2024, which I addressed and returned the docket to the DPP. These are attached as annexure TLM 5.1. Annexure TLM 5.1 starts at page 517 of the big file. Are those the directives you say you received from the DPP regarding this matter?
Yes, I see.
And this is dated 23/10/2024 at page 518. And if we go back to 517, it lists about 10 things that must be done in this matter. And the DPP says the following outstanding investigations must be completed, namely obtain the AVL records of the state vehicles involved and gives the numbers. These are the vehicles we I think the numbers correspond with what we saw in the photo album. And A1 must explain where did he keep the money in his house, obtain a statement from his domestic worker. Does A1 have CCTV cameras, and if so, obtain the footage of the incident? A1 must explain whether all the members searched his house, that is occupants of BMW and VW Golf, or only some of them. Which members took the money and placed it inside a bag, and in which vehicle did they leave the scene? Which members told him they need to share the money and took it? An identity parade must be held in order for A1 to point out the members involved. A2 must be accompanied by an affidavit from car track, in brackets, person who gave A2. And lastly, A17 must be accompanied by opening and closing bank statements from FNB. A Section 205 subpoena must be issued in this regard. Then it continues at item 2. The police docket, Boksburg North Cast 241/03/2024, are hereby returned and must be resubmitted on or before the 25th November 2025 with finalized investigations. And it's signed by the DPP. Do you see that?
Yes.
And these directives are directed to the Deputy Provincial Head, Gauteng IPID, for the attention of Mr. Bodu and yourself.
Yes.
You received these directives, and with the 10 items that you must attend to as instructed by the DPP, were you able to address all these concerns by the DPP?
Yes, this was an early directive from DPP. I already dealt with this, all of this, so it is finalized, and the advocate has issued the final directives that these members must be prosecuted for robbery with aggravating circumstances, and I already, J50 must be applied. I already applied for J50, I already arrested them. So currently the status of this case is trial.
And you deal with that at paragraph 74 of your statement, perhaps. Then if you could just read that, and that completes your work on this matter. At page 17 of your statement, paragraph 74, you have a little paragraph there headed criminal referral.
Yes.
Please read that.
The DPP took a decision that the members must be arrested and charged for robbery with aggravating circumstances. All of these members have been arrested and charged, and their criminal case is with the Boksburg Magistrate Court, and the matter is currently on the court roll, reminded to the 23 February 2026, which is this month. Must I continue?
Please continue, conclude that, yes.
Departmental recommendation. The outcome of the disciplinary recommendation is still awaited.
So you will recall that you were invited to comment on these cases specifically,
Yeah.
because the Chief Mapie and Commissioner Spies had been concerned that IPID is either deliberately not investigating these matters or dragging its feet. Do you have a comment now that you have accounted for this matter and you have given, it would appear that, at least from my perspective, you have done everything that is required by law for you to do?
Yeah, it can't be true that I deliberately frustrated these matters, because you can see from my evidence that my goal was to get justice by obtaining each and every exhibit which will assist this investigation, so that our victims can get justice. So it was not a rush job in order to impress someone to arrest people willy-nilly without doing proper job. So the aim of the department is not to please the media, is to seek for justice, even if it takes longer, but the aim is to get justice. So I have with all these members that we dealt with, I have no relationship with them, and some of them, they hate me. If you can put me with the devil here, they will rather choose the devil than me.
Okay. Thank you. You did indicate at the start of your, yes.
Before that, Ms. Silla, I didn't realize that you have moved from this document. You say that when Ms. Motsipe comes here, you expect that she will say that she's still waiting for the audio visuals.
For this matter, which she will say that she's waiting for the video footage from me.
Yeah, it can be though that she's waiting for that, because when you look at the statements, and here I'm looking at a statement that starts at page 475. And I guess this is something, firstly, let me ask this, that this docket was given to EMPD, the statements that are in this document?
Yes.
Okay, and who in particular do you address these things to?
This was given...
When you do the report and you give them to MPD, who would you have addressed it to?
This was, I will say, the person who received it, because there is a signature of her. This document was received by Binel Mutsip.
Okay.
But it is addressed to that department, which is headed by Yeni Erasmus.
I mean, I think what I want to point out, and I guess she will, if she comes here, she would have to explain. Randomly at 475, you have a statement that starts there of Ngubeni, Constable Ngubeni, and at from page 6, no, in fact, from paragraph rather, not page 6, at paragraph 5 on page 477, she does speak to, they arrived at that security complex, at that complex, residential complex, with the complainant. She does describe that. And then when you, so on her version, on one of the suspects' version at least, there is a concession that they did go to the complex with the suspect. And when you go to the next page, at paragraph 6, and I'm doing this just not to waste time, I'm skipping around. Ngubeni speaks about the African male then opened the door and welcomed us inside. Now they are at the residence, at the house itself. So there is evidence in your docket that you gave to EMPD that these people did drive to the residential property, and in fact they got inside the property. So it can be that the lack of a video evidence from you is the reason that they haven't instituted any discipline. They're not running the disciplinary hearing. It can be, she has to come and give us a different answer.
Yeah, she's listening, but I place it on record. Since January, she was insisting, following me for the video footage. Yeah. And this incident also, EMPD was aware from the onset, even the time this docket was with the SAPS in the initial stage. This docket was investigated by Chabalala. It's a female officer. Chabalala stated to me that I gave them the statement of the complainant. I made them to watch the video footage. It was Ayanda and Binel. This is not me, it is the police officer from Boxburg. But when they come here, they will deny all that they knew.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Baloyi. Mr. Magagula, we are now at your paragraph 76, we're page 18 of your statement. Just perhaps before you deal with that, commissioners, from page 18, paragraphs 76 to 78 speak to those problematic cases that Mr. Gefelakai testified about, the Mayerton case of 72/8/2022, which was said that's not registered in the manner that Commissioner Spies has described it. At 79, it deals with the Springs, Cobalt, and Brakpan copper matters. Without necessarily reading these, because into the record, what you have here, as regards the Mayerton case, Mr. Kefalakai has informed the commissioners that they are trying to investigate the circumstances around this case and that they will revert. Is there anything you are able to add to that regarding this Mayerton case? What have you been able to establish about it in the interim?
In Mayerton case, so far, now, currently, we have the telephone number of the alleged victim, Uomvelem. We will pursue, we will phone him, we will visit him in his address and ask if he knows anything about this. If he's willing to open a case, we will assist him in opening a case and establish if there is police involvement. But according to the video, there is police involvement, which means it will be our case. And if it is our case, again, even though it's Mayerton, it will be fruitful for the team of Egorulane because it is ours who make case intake in the office with other supervisors. So if we see this suspect are overlapping in one area, it will be prudent, for instance, to give the matter to Nomsamasuku, who has engaged with this suspect. He knows the modus operandi. I was just giving an example that we will be flexible on how to deal with this matter if it is open.
Mr. Magagula, my criticism of your statement, paragraph 77, is that you note from your cell phone that Space sent you the clip on 6 March 2023. And we are now in 2026, and only now is IPIT telling us that they will open a case because it falls within their jurisdiction and they will take it forward. And the reason why I'm criticizing you is we know that the witness who provided this clip has since been killed. And I was a bit unhappy about somebody saying the video clip could not be opened, because if you know who it comes from, then surely you must go back to the person who gave you the clip and say, I cannot open it for whatever reason. But it doesn't explain why it took 3 years for IPIT to say, we will contact the victim, because he's not the complainant at this stage, the victim of the crime.
The time Commissioner Spies sent me the video footage, I asked him about the full. Commissioner Spies is a police officer. I asked him about the telephone number and case number. He could not provide such. And Commissioner Spies he was in better position than me, because the information is given to him by someone who trusts him and not me. And if he got that information from Yako Hanegom was not going to trust me or to talk to me, because he was our suspect in the Brakpan murder case. So Commissioner Spies was better placed to source that information, to assist me. Even like civilians, South Africa, when they report because our phone now, our phones are known to them. When they
Commissioner, and let's get up to date with the news. It's 4 o'clock. Here's Ondela.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the top stories, concerns over Hewlett's provisional liquidation and calls from Mbeki and Zuma to be subpoenaed at the TRC prosecution's inquiry. For SFM News, I am Ondela and a very good afternoon. The South African Farmers Development Association, SAFDA, says it is concerned about the latest developments regarding Tonga Hewlett, which has filed for provisional liquidation. Industry insiders say this is threatening the entire sugar industry and millions of livelihoods in KwaZulu-Natal and Mpumalanga. Tonga Hewlett, which accounts for 27% of the total sugar production in the sector, was placed under business rescue in 2022. SAFDA Executive Chairperson Dr. Siyabonga Madlanga says more than 15,400 small-scale sugar farmers represent 60% of the total number and supply sugarcane to Tonga Hewlett's 3 sugar mills in Otongati, Gingindlovu and Empangeni. He says the association is engaging government and captains of industry to explore options.
The news of Tonga Hewlett's getting into liquidation, provisional liquidation, has hit us with a bit of sadness. We are aware, because we were made aware by management, that this is perhaps the direction they are taking, because it looks like the business rescue process is falling off. What we've, has helped us regain confidence is the commitment, both from government and the respective stakeholders in the likes of Vision. This new phase is being received with an intention to continue rescuing the business, not to really break it down. This is a critical sector of the sugar industry. Tonga Hewlett is one of the biggest stakeholders in the sugar industry.
The Kwadukuza municipality in KwaZulu-Natal has temporarily closed 2 North Coast beaches after a reported fish kill. The Umhlali River mouth at Tinley Mano and Chaka's Cove Tidal Pool in Salt Rock are now closed as a precaution. The municipality says the decision was taken in the interest of public health. The water quality tests are underway. Residents and visitors are being urged not to swim, fish or collect marine life in the affected areas. Parents are also advised to keep children and pets away. The municipality says the beaches will reopen once tests confirm that the water is safe. More than 20 veterinarians have been deployed to state veterinary facilities across Mpumalanga to help with the outbreak of the foot and mouth disease. Provincial Agriculture, Rural Development, Land and Environmental Affairs MEC Ketiwe Mweketsi says the deployment of the team will help take veterinary services to rural areas for the benefit of livestock farmers and pet owners. Mweketsi embarked on a rollout of foot and mouth disease vaccination on Balfour. There are 35 reported cases of the disease in Balfour. She says they are still waiting for more vaccine.
The number of infected animals is about 35, but there are municipalities around Raksibande which are also affected by this foot and mouth disease. We have started the program. It will be rolled out across the province. We are going to vaccinate all the animals that are infected by this disease, and we'll be continuing to do with other municipalities. We have received the dose of vaccine as Mpumalanga province, but we are still waiting for more doses that will assist us to vaccinate the number of cattle that are infected by this disease.
Lukhanyo Calata has called for the TRC cases inquiry to subpoena former Presidents Thabo Mbeki and Jacob Zuma to come answer for their failings with regards to the investigation and prosecution of TRC cases. Representing families of victims, Calata, the son of Fort Calata of the Craddock Four, has aboard the double speaker of the former heads of state, including President Cyril Ramaphosa, who he says pronounced that they understand the plight of the victims' families while undermining the inquiry and its proceedings.
The TRC handed over its reports. It handed those reports over to former President Thabo Mbeki as the president of this republic. What did he do about it? What did his organization do about it? What did his government do about it? If nothing was happening with regards to these cases, why did he not, as the leader, as the president of the republic, call his ministers of justice, his national directors of public prosecutions, his police commissioners? Why did he not call them into a room and say, gentlemen, or ladies, I need this to be done pronto? He didn't do so. That's why we're sitting here all of these many years later.
Police watchdog APID Assistant Director Tulani Magagula says the city of Ekurhuleni should have instituted disciplinary proceedings against officers who stole a truck and its load in Patfontein, Benoni. Magagula says 2 Metro Police officers and 1 civilian working for a private security company were behind the theft of the truck carrying the load estimated at 1 million rand. EMPD and SAPS members were escorting the truck under a bogus operation. Magagula says the exhibits contained in the trunk were not recorded in the SAPS property register. He's testifying before the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry in Pretoria.
The EMPD should have opened disciplinary hearing against the members because they had the information at that time. Furthermore, to get more evidence, the important part, it is the pound itself. The pound plays an important role because it's where we found who booked the truck in. What was the reason for booking the truck in the pound? Is there any case number for the truck to be booked in?
UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres has called on African leaders to push for the transformation of the multilateral system. Speaking exclusively to SABC News in Addis Ababa, the outgoing UN chief, whose term ends at the end of the year, says Africa must have a permanent seat in the UN Security Council. Guterres will deliver his final address at the African Union Heads of State Summit in the Ethiopian capital tomorrow. He has also welcomed South Africa's decision to withdraw its troops in the DRC as part of MONUSCO.
This is a sovereign decision of South Africa. We fully respect that corresponds to the organization of the South African forces. It comes in a moment in which we are unfortunately forced to reduce MONUSCO because we only had half of the US contribution to peacekeeping, and because of that we had to make a drastic reduction of about 25% of our troops all over the world.
Recapping the top story, the South African Farmers Development Association says it is concerned about the latest developments regarding Tonga Tullet, which has filed for provisional liquidation. I'm Mondela for SFM News headlines at 4:30.
In sports this hour, Rulani Mukwena rejects leak allegations ahead of MC Alger showdown with Mamelodi Sundowns. Mabilo reveals plans for her first 100 days in office at CGA, and Norwell counting on home advantage as South Africa face Bosnia in Davis Cup. More details at 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, rain across parts of Johannesburg South, so please reduce your speeds and drive with absolute care in the affected areas. The N1 southbound in four ways queuing towards Winnie Mandela Drive, and the N1 northbound in Midrand queuing towards Samrand Road. In KZN, the M7 westbound slow moving towards Bellville Road exit, the N2 southbound queuing on the link to the N3 east at Spaghetti Junction, and the M7 eastbound has a crash at the N2 highway. In Cape Town, the N1 outbound queuing towards Okavango Road, Stellenbosch Arterial Road eastbound in Kuils River, slow moving towards Nooinsfontein Road, and Voortrekker Road eastbound, slow moving through Maitland. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Well, you may have heard yesterday's State of the Nation address where the President announced the establishing of a National Water Crisis Committee. That's nationwide, okay, to tackle South Africa's water crisis. We'll chat to Dr. Fidel Adam about that later on. But for now, let's cross back to the Madlanga Commission.
What Commissioner Spies understood the Meyatin case to involve. Nonetheless, Mr. Kifalakai has undertaken to the commissioners to come back on this matter formally and will file a supplementary. I just wanted to place your TLM 6 formally on record. Okay. Next, from 79, you deal with the Springs, Cobalt, and Brakpan copper matters. I think emphasis there is at your page 8, is your paragraph 80. If you could just give a quick summary of what you were able to establish about these cases. Are you able to?
This one also, I believe it was answered, even if I didn't read. It was the issue.
Yes, well, I know what the issue is. It is the update, because at paragraph 80, it appears that there has been communication with a specific warrant officer now.
Okay. However, a telephonic inquiry was made with Warrant Officer Saki of Springs Police Station on 6 February 2026. He confirmed that there was a case similar to what is described under the Cobalt case. According to Warrant Officer Saki, this was a case of stolen goods which were recovered.
Yes?
According to Warrant Officer Saki, there was no police involvement in this matter that he could have reported, and therefore it does not, it does. So
you're quite right, it should read not.
Yeah, it must read, it does not fall in the IP mandate.
Now, unlike the matter of Mayerton, here just a narrative, are you able perhaps in time to provide either a statement from Warrant Officer Saki explaining, you call it the Cobalt, Springs, and I think, actually it's a measure of two cases. Are you able to obtain a statement, a full statement from Warrant Officer Saki around this issue?
Not yet.
Please think about the answer whilst we take a 5-minute adjournment. Let's adjourn.
Indeed, Chair. Thanks.
Commission, live on SAFM.
Right, so that's it with the Madlanga Commission for the day, for the week, in fact. Now, you can pick up on that conversation in terms of what you've heard today. And yes, some people said some days are more fiery than others. I get that. But for you, what's been your big takeout of the Madlanga Commission today? You can WhatsApp us right away. You can call in live as well. Let me give out those numbers. But if you're a regular, then I know you have it. But yeah, it is anyway. 086 000 2032 to call in live. And then WhatsApp 0614 104 107. You can also tweet. When you do that, tag SFM Radio and do tag me, Ashraf Garda, but use that hashtag, the National Pulse. Right, let's pick out some of the other comments that you've had or you've made. We need to hear you out. Let me just get right. There we are.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, the SFM listeners. Ashraf, I wish Jacinta Zuma is paying attention and listening to Madlanga Commission because she is so vocal without facts. When she says foreign nationals are the ones who are committing crimes in South Africa, now she must be in a position to distinguish what petty crime is and the real crime is. She must listen to Madlanga Commission. Thanks. This is James in Johannesburg.
Okay, got that. There's more to come, so feel free to call. There are others wanting to talk about how much do you know about Imran Khan, the former Pakistani cricket captain who's been, detained for a long time, and the reports are that he's only retained 15% of his sight. I'm not too sure how absolutely confirmed that is, but if you know much, you certainly can tell me what you think of that. And there are many other issues domestically in South Africa and around the world that you may want to pick up on. In the meantime, let's pick up on an issue that has been, it's plaguing people in the city of Joburg in the Gauteng region, and as we also know, as we were reminded yesterday, that water, or the absence of water, no water, is a problem in many, many parts of the country. So no surprise then, in the light of what's happened, that during yesterday's SONA, President Ramaphosa announced that government is establishing now a National Water Crisis Committee. Well, how effective is that? How much do we know more about? Well, I know less. Watercane's executive manager is Dr. Friedel Edelman. That's her beat. Appreciate your time, Friedel. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Ashraf, and thank you for having me on your show.
Thank you. So, National Water Crisis Committee, does it get a yay or another committee? We want action. Which one is it?
Yeah, it's another committee. I think that every time we have an obstacle or some kind of a big issue, Ramaphosa forms either a commission or a committee. And it's not guaranteed that, the committees have teeth, even though he says he will personally chair it. Until we know exactly what the terms of reference are for such a committee, what they aim to do, what are the actions that they're going to take. Right now it just feels like another talk shop and another committee.
I mean, as we talk now, I'm thinking people in big cities like Joburg and the Tshwane region, Pretoria, and then others in rural communities are in some way or the other all affected by an absence of water in their communities. And they see it naturally as a very basic thing in their lives. It's fundamental to what we do, right? How should they understand when South Africa talks about having this water crisis, or you people talk about, in fact, this being a national crisis? When I say you people, Watercan.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's the thing. It's not just a Joburg issue; it's a national issue, and people are living it. So that's it. They know the water crisis. They're living it. They don't have water. There are areas, for example, that haven't had water in their taps for 2 to 3 years because municipalities have not opted to provide that water. There's wastewater treatment works across the country that's just spewing sewage into our rivers and streams on a daily basis, and all of that, it's a crisis. And I think when you go down to the ground and people are affected by it, because there's no water in the taps, then people are relying on this very, very polluted water as their only source of water. I am surprised that we don't have a bigger health risk because of the state of our water issues in the country.
Okay, so let's take a step back and understand, and I'm going to just be topical for now. What's been the problem with regard to no water in Joburg this last, week or 3 weeks, depends who you talk to?
Yeah, so, it's been one of those very frustrating periods for civil society and activists because it's been very hard for us to get proper answers. But here's what I'm going to tell you in terms of what I've been able to map out. So we had Rand Water do remember they did some maintenance early this year when we came into January, which did cause some issues with the system, but not entirely. And then there was the explosion of the pump station, or at the pump station, also a Rand Water pump station. And Rand Water is our bulk supplier. They abstract the water, clean it, and they sell it to the municipalities. If there's no water coming from them, then there's no water into our reservoirs and into our pipes, etc. Then they had a reservoir leak, which they had to also shut down supply. So that created a very empty and a very fragile system in Joburg. And we were not, the Joburg water people were unable to actually stabilize the system. And that is why, for a first time, the outage was really not first time, but it was a really widespread outage for people in Melville, Emerentia, West Dean, Parktown West. This outage was then resulted in being there for about 20 days. I think now today was day 26 or something. We were almost getting to a month. But then to add to those woes, Rand Water reduced supply to the city of Johannesburg. Now, that created even more instability in the system. And they would have continued doing that if we didn't have all the civil society groups protesting. And this is where it's clear protesting does work. It does get the attention we need. We had everyone from the minister, deputy minister, the minister of Kokta, the mayor, everybody for the first time in a very long time, actually coming to people on the ground. Whether it's an election year or not, that's another story, right? But I think it was there that the minister or the officials or the heads or whatever said, you know what, you need to increase supply.
So help us understand this
or
from a
shift water or
okay,
something.
but let me understand this technically. So, you're saying when Rand Water had their problems, they couldn't deliver to the client, which is Joburg Water, for example, right? And then at the same stage they reduce supply. So why would they then, having not delivered water, then even further reduce supply? I'm just trying to understand the logic of that and the practicality around that.
So they're reducing supply because they have a license to abstract a certain amount of water from the Vaal River system, right? And they are saying that they are oversupplying many municipalities, one of which is Johannesburg. So their argument is we are using too much. And that was the press release that came out, I think, last week that said, blame the consumer for whatever is going on, saying the reason you're using too much, the demand is too high. But that is not a fair assessment of what is going on. Yes, there are issues around how much water we use. A lot of it is lost through leaks. And that's what I want to say to Joburg, is it doesn't mean that we mustn't save water and be more mindful. But at this point, while people have not had water for 2 weeks, for Rand Water to then go on and say, you're using too much, demand is too high, so we are going to reduce the supply, is totally irresponsible. And it just misread the room, to be quite honest.
Okay, so now then you're saying there's been the huge political presence over the last couple of days. I mean, I live in the Greenside area. There's some water for some people. It's come, it's gone. It's still pretty erratic today, but it's for the first time there's something happening. But it's still not clear cut because it's coming and going. What is your understanding of that now?
So when I think that they've now, besides Joburg Water, is also shifting water from one area to another to try and create more volume in the areas that are hardest hit. So there's that, and I do suspect that maybe Rand Water may have increased. If they're not, I mean, I think that's where our anger needs to be, and that's where my anger is right now, is at Rand Water. And also, so that it will take a couple of, I would say a day or two. It is coming in most areas. People are getting water, but I want to say to people, don't go do 3 loads of washing. I know we're sitting with 3 weeks of no washing, etc. But I want to really ask people if they can please, just be a bit mindful that the system needs to settle. So give it, you can do what you need to when your water's coming in, but give it a couple of days to settle. And then I think by Monday, we'll be able to see if the system is stable.
Okay. What about now, in terms of the blame, you talk about, your anger is directed towards Rand Water. A lot of it has been directed towards Joburg Mayor in the first instance, then the Premier, mainly about his pronouncements about the hotel. But let's say Joburg Mayor as the man in charge. So is it unfair to blame Joburg's Mayor?
Look, I think if we're looking at the system and the problems that have been there for a number of years, I think it's the whole, it's the city as a whole, government as a whole that needs to own up, right? And I think the mayor does need to answer for not being around until there was this big fanfare. For 3 weeks of that outage, Ashraf, we heard nothing from the politicians, nothing. And I mean, you can't do that in a city like Joburg where it wasn't 1 or 2 areas. It was vast numbers of people that were affected by this. You needed to come and show that you're trying to help, communicate better if you were. We didn't see it. But also, I felt like until there was this big fanfare before the SONA, we didn't hear enough from the mayor. And then he pitches up at a protest, which then, it was just not the right timing. I think that by then people's anger was so high.
Okay. Now you, as in Watercan, you've described it as a crisis. I'm talking about Joburg specifically. We'll get to national in a moment. They've said, in fact, it's not a crisis. How do you determine that this is a crisis, and how do they determine it's not? Meaning, what is the measure of a water crisis?
So for me, so there's a day zero, and they said no, it's not a day zero. Although I did ask the mayor at the press briefing, I said, There are people without water for 20 days in different areas. Isn't that a day zero for them? And he agreed, right? So there's day zero, and then there's national disaster. We needed to call for a national disaster because if you look at what was happening in the Western Cape with calling for a national disaster in terms of drought and nearing a day zero, we were saying we are living a day zero. So you had large parts of the city that did not have water. And I'm not only talking about the city of Joburg and the suburbs, but even outside of as you go out to the south, Soweto, other areas. The other issue is that if we look at the system, if we look at our infrastructure in Johannesburg, half of our reservoirs are leaking. We need to replace like at least 120 to 150 kilometers of pipeline, of water pipeline, and of sanitation. You know, we've only been able to do about 60 so far. They say they're going to get to 80. It's nowhere near where we need to be. The budget, they don't have a budget that they can pay contractors. So what happens is Joburg Water cannot pay their contractors, and then the contractors down tools, and then projects are prolonged. So that, for me, is a crisis.
Now, I mean, let's extend this conversation then broader than Joburg, right? The minister dealing with water and sanitation made the point that I think something like 400 billion rands is required and to upgrade South Africa's water systems. And in fact, the point is like we don't have the money. I mean, is she correct in saying we actually don't have the money? And if we don't have the money, how are we ever going to get to the situation of fixing this up?
So yes, I think that often we say we don't have the money, and I think if we really frugal and actually have a transparent look at budgets, we could figure out where is all the money going, where's the wastage, and try to deal with that. We know that there's corruption. We know that there's tenders that have been given to people that shouldn't be getting things. The mayor himself told us as civil society at a briefing that he's been watching some of these contractors who come and charge like 1,000 rand for a bulb or something ridiculous. And all of those things need to be tackled, right? But even so, I think that government is saying that they can't do it alone, and we agree. But we need to monitor. We heard that the city of Joburg has taken something, a number of loans. But where's that money gone to? And those are the answers that we are trying to get next week.
Okay. Now, staying with the national part and this call now for this task team, right? How big is South Africa's national water crisis? And again, how would you determine that?
Right. So I think nationally, it's the same in terms of infrastructure, in that municipalities have neglected maintenance. So they haven't done the proper upkeep of reservoirs, wastewater treatment works, and pipelines. So that's the first thing. The second thing is almost 70% of our wastewater treatment works are in a critical state. That means that they're spewing sewage straight into our rivers and streams and causing high levels of pollution, right? The other issue is government themselves has said that half of our drinking water systems is not fit for drinking. So that, for me, is when half of your drinking systems, people cannot drink, and you polluting your rivers and environment, that is a national crisis.
Okay, lastly
Can I add one more thing?
Go ahead, yeah.
Also, we must look at the Auditor General's report on the state of local government. And I think there the President was correct in that municipalities can no longer do the jobs that they need to do. And that the accountability there needs to start.
Well, the president did sort of suggest that if they can't get it right, you're going to have to do it from people on the outside, right? So therefore, to conclude with, regarding the National Water Crisis Committee, what's the one thing you would want to see coming out of that committee as a matter of urgency?
I think as a matter of urgency, there are a few things that they can, fast track. Firstly, we're hoping that this committee is not going to only be government officials, that they need to have other people in it, and like smart engineers or other people that can help. And I also think that they need to have plans that are actionable, that we can hold them accountable for, that we can say, okay, what are the key projects we're going to be working on nationally, and how are we going to get there? It mustn't be an avenue for let's see how many loans we can get and get, just keep getting money for big investment projects. We need to look at the projects on the ground, the people that don't have water, the millions and millions of South Africans who actually rely on JoJo tanks, or they relying on rivers. Those are the people that's where the money must go to. That's where the access is really not happening. So that's what the committee needs to do as a start. The other thing, which is it merges with his other demand of tackling crime and organized crime, is that here's a sector where it's still young in terms of the water mafia. Tackle that. Take that on head on. Let's see the accountability that the president talked about. Let's see him, because, he talked about the...
All right, very quickly, just in one line, yeah, carry on, quickly.
The 56 municipalities that they've laid criminal charges. But that criminal charges is not on service delivery. It's on pollution. We need that kind of criminal charges on service delivery, or people must be fired for not being able to provide services.
And to make the point, not everybody has the option. If they don't have water, they can go to a hotel. Don't we know that? Dr. Friedel Adam, thank you for your time. WaterCan's Executive Manager. Water crisis in Joburg, water crisis in Gauteng, water crisis everywhere. Only one that it's not a crisis, when Tyler sings about water, then you win awards, you win Grammys as well. Right now, let's get the news headlines. Here's Ondala.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the news headlines, CEO of the Credit Association of South Africa, Leonie van Pletzen, has welcomed government's proposed amendment to the National Credit Act. The South African Farmers Development Association says it is concerned about the latest developments regarding Tonga Hewlett, which has filed for provisional liquidation, and the president of Mozambique, Daniel Chapo, has thanked the government and people of South Africa for supporting the neighboring country during trying times. A full update follows at the top of the hour with Greg Hose.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the R59 southbound in Alberton has a crash before Swartkoppies Road, and Bears Nodia Drive northbound in Rand Park Ridge, a crash at Dale Lance Avenue. In KZN, the M1 Higginson Highway westbound in Chatsworth, slow moving towards the Westcliff exit, and the N3 westbound in Pietermaritzburg, queuing towards Market Road. In Cape Town, the R44 southbound in Stellenbosch, slow moving towards Annandale Road, and Marine Drive in Tableview, slow moving towards Blauberg Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Doming Kapele.
Right, a busy sporting weekend, and certainly that MC Alger Sundowns game is more than just football to me.
There's a lot of things happening off the field. MC Alger coach Rulani Mokoena has strongly denied reports that suspended analyst Mario Masha leaked information to him ahead of matches against Sundowns. Masha, who has worked at the club for more than a decade, was suspended on over allegations that he shared tactical details and training footage with Mokoena.
Reputation is built over years of conduct and not through anonymous screenshots. And let me state this very, very clearly. Mario has not given me any tactical or confidential information about Sundowns. The conversations referenced were professional football discussions, some personal, relating to his UEFA licenses, which he asked me to help him share through different methodologies, previous work done together at Mamelodi Sundowns, and different tactical ideas that include European examples such as those from Manchester City. At no point, and I repeat, at no point, Were current Sundowns tactical plans or confidential material shared with me?
In a decisive CAF Confederations Cup Group D clash at the Suez Canal Authority Stadium tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. Zamalek sits second in the group, 2 points behind Chiefs, and know that victory would secure top spot and a quarterfinal place. Even a draw could even be enough if Al Masry drop points against Zesco United. Chiefs, meanwhile, are 3 points clear of Al Masry and need only a draw to progress. They could even advance with a defeat, provided that Al Masry failed to win. Both sides will qualify if Al Masry do not beat Zesco, making this a high-stakes encounter for Group D. In terms of cricket, Zimbabwe pulled off a stunning upset at the T20 Cricket World Cup, beating Australia by 23 runs today. Batting first, Zimbabwe posted 169 for 2 before their bowlers dismantled Australia's chase. Blessing Muzarabani starred with 4 for 17, while Brett Evans added 3 for 23. A brilliant diving catch from Tony removed Ben Dwasses as Australia were bowled out for 146 in 19 overs. Then, in terms of athletics, Central Gauteng Athletics President Karabo Mabilo has outlined her plans for the first 100 days of her tenure after officially being handed the reins of one of the country's most influential provinces. Now, part of her vision is to stabilize the organization, formalize governance structures, and amend the constitution within the first quarter of her term. Mabilo says that athlete-centered governance remains close to her heart and was initially meant to be her top priority in the first 3 months.
The 3 last points, I think that I'm very, very passionate about. If I could, it would be my number one. But because of all those other issues that we've had, we have to then obviously look at athlete-centered governance. How do we do that, Charles? We need to ensure that all the development that we've been speaking about during our campaigns, we actually make sure that it is now put on a vision board, it is implemented, and it comes to fruition. That all the things that we've been talking about, we ensure that we reinforce it, support our athletes, show face in this thing that we call in these events rather, ensure that there's development, ensure that we plow back in terms of the resources that we're talking about. And of course that requires financial management and ensure that we reduce the risk, because there's been issues of, is the risk CDA got a qualified audit, how do we mitigate against that going forward? As much as you guys have made a profit, how do you mitigate against a qualified audit? What is it that you can do better? And those are our low-hanging fruit, of course. And obviously ensure that fundamentally we ensure that we rehabilitate our image out there. We ensure that we strengthen our organization, our credibility.
Well, with that said, it is a wrap from my side for now. I'll have more in the next hour.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
And with all the numbers, as always, from the team from, as we do every Friday, we look ahead to issues here. So we have no markets coming up on Friday with Jimmy Moyaha coming from 6 to 7, just so that you know that. But we certainly have the team here giving us the market update now. Paswane Impatlele, what have you got? Paswane, are you there?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Well, looking to the markets, we're seeing the SONA. Coming from the SONA, it was in line with expectations. With emphasis on delivery, we saw the close focus on pro-growth reforms from infrastructure investment, water, electricity reforms, cracking down crime and fiscal discipline. They signal basically they are lowering South Africa's risk premium, emphasis on delivery. They are planning on attracting investments, and that's why we saw our financials reacting positively today, trending on the good side. But on the execution will remain the biggest risk, and the budget speech would be looking investors would be looking at that. Meanwhile, we saw the likes of the U.S. inflation on the market front. It was at east pace 2.4% at a softer pace, supporting the weaker retail sales we saw and concluding markets that the U.S. is facing downside risks. And in the short term, especially with the K-shaped economy pushing forward, we saw the likes of risk assets here reacting with the likes of yields being lower, along with the dollar increasing the probability of interest rate cuts going forward, supporting the likes of gold up 1.6% at $5,000 an ounce. Platinum was up 3% at $2,060 an ounce. Oil prices remained positive, holding at $67.50 a barrel. Meanwhile, we saw the headwinds from the likes of financials and tech in the U.S., and that pulled the U.S. equities lower. The likes of Nasdaq and Dow were down 0.3. In Europe, gains only on the DAX up 0.1 marginally. Weekly, we're seeing the JSE is going to be holding up gains, but today it's trading lower, down 1.4%. Draggers are like the likes of resources, 2.8, industrials 0.7, and financials down 0.6. And looking into the currency space, we're seeing the rand against the dollar at 15.97, rand against the euro 18.96, and rand against the pound 21.78.
Right, thanks for that, Paswane and Patledi. I appreciate your time. So there we are. No market 6 to 7 being, well, it's just about the weekend, isn't it? Did I tell you that we have Paddy Lahotla coming up as our fireside chat guest 5 to 6? So he's coming up in 15, well, just more than 15 minutes' time. Of course, I'll ask him about Sona. Why wouldn't I do that, isn't it? But let's get to you after this.
Call us on 086 000 2032.
Right, let's get to the calls to the Eastern Cape. We go. Faisal, you've got a view. Hi.
Hello, how are you?
Yeah, very good, Faisal. Thanks. What's your point?
My point is this. You see this art committee of Malema and this Mr. James and the NK people and ANC people.
Yeah.
This man, this Paul O'Sullivan, is a threat for them. He is a threat. They try by all means to bring him down. This James Auntie, chief species in the ad hoc committee. Then twice he was running interviews on SAFM about this man, how he put him down like that. What this man has done is better than all of them put together. I'm an ANC man, but even those ANC MPs, what this man has done is done better than them. They want to put them to rub this man, to rub him down. Of course, he can't say that. He say that he lost his Afrikaans when in the accident. That is nonsense. But let us look at the facts. What have they achieved? This man has put big guns down. Take it, he take him out. Adeoti, he take many generals. He did very, very good. You know. So I think this man is always a threat for them. They want by all means to make him a person non-grounded. He must be deported. That's what they're trying. You know, why will they like that? Because they felt threatened by this man.
So you say he's a threat. All right, I got that.
He's a threat for them.
Yeah, I wonder who's going to agree with you. And if so, why would he be a threat to them? What is it that he has got that is an obstacle to them achieving whatever aims they have? Thanks for that, Faisal in the Eastern Cape. Salo in Carltonville, hello.
Hi, how are you?
Good indeed. Go for it, Salo. Hello.
Yeah, I want to talk about the issue of service delivery, in particular water. Water is a basic service. So if the national government now is going to take over the provision of water in the municipalities, what is the people who are working in the municipalities going to be doing? They are paid exorbitant funds, salaries, and then what is their role? Water is a basic service, and I feel strongly that it's very atrocious that they are failing to provide basic services to people. And if you look at the case of Hammanskraal, people died there because they were provided with water that is contaminated. And it looks like this is going to be a national problem, having water crisis, having water that is contaminated. No, this is very wrong. I think those people who work in the municipalities, to a certain extent, they should be charged for failing or violating basic human rights, because water is a basic service.
In fact, I heard the South African Human Rights Commission may take relevant authorities to task around just that an inability to deliver water is an inability to uphold basic human rights, as you have said. So, Sello, thank you for that. Again, punctuating that point. Do you agree that those that fail to deliver the most basic needs to the citizens of South Africa are in fact guilty of flouting human rights rules and therefore can be taken to task? Khotso in Bloemfontein, hello.
Afternoon, Ashram, how are you?
I'm very good indeed. It's the weekend, man. Very good.
Yeah, we are going for a weekend, but I'm very concerned, Ashram.
Why?
Madlanga Commission, the investigator, Ms. Masuku, the IPT lady, has safety. Now that you hear the information that she has revealed in her testimony, you must understand that at this point in time, she said that she's about to conclude all the investigation and to ensure that these people are arrested from the EMPD. I'm worried about her safety. I wish that something can be done for her safety. We don't want a situation where we experience the death of a witness.
Thank you. Well, the issue of witness protection came up yesterday at the SONA as well. And yes, I think if we're unable to protect witnesses, then we run the risk of witnesses not blowing the whistle, which means the work of investigators will not get done, which means justice will not be served. So, points taken from you, Khotso. Right. In fact, there's a few people talking about Paul O'Sullivan and him being an obstacle. I wonder. So we'll get more comments on that too. Here's one, and it's about football.
Hi, Ashraf and Tomi. I am listening to that clip, Rulani, having not shared the tactical plans of Sundowns. But it was a professional conversation about UEFA. Why on earth will you have such a conversation with a person whom we are going to play against in the near future? For me, on balance of probability, something happened on balance of probability. Thank you.
Something happened.
In the Eastern Cape.
Thank you. And it's certainly an issue that has become central to the game this weekend, right?
Krista here from George. I'm just listening to this lady talking about the water crisis in the country. It is absolutely ridiculous that they say obviously we need 400 billion to fix it. Obviously the ANC hasn't done maintenance for the last 30 years. But beside that, now we want to have name changes in the country. The SONA last night cost millions. The president could have sat in his home and done via Skype or a video call address the nation. We're spending money like we have money on stupid things. Let's tackle the problems in this country and not just keep on wasting money. Surely the ANC must fall this next election.
Well, look, the cost was 7 million. They, in fact, said that the bulk of it was for media technical setups to ensure that the mass media is able to broadcast live to most people in the country on television sets, on radio, streaming live, and that does cost money, and that's their argument. So would you say that? Let me put this to you, because it's come up too often in the last couple of days. Like, listen, yes, you want to ensure that budgets are kept to a minimum, but you also have to have the big events. Like, can you just imagine if a new president is inaugurated one day, whenever that's going to be, and then there's just nothing. We just get a WhatsApp, and there's nothing, and the president takes the oath via WhatsApp voice note, like something along that line. Like, seriously, some things you just have to have the events. Zelna's laughing, our technical producer. You want me to have a pause break for you to stop laughing? But it's true. Can you just imagine that? And then you get other senior appointments like a chief justice, and we'll just WhatsApp you. It's fine. That's it. So there has to be some cost, and there has to be some event. I agree, but I also don't think there must be blatant wastage, which is another story. The question is, what would you do? Do you think there's a case for a SONA to be done really via online? Can you imagine 10 million people tuned in online? Not even because you'd want that. Do you want that, or do you want what we have right now? Look, can do without the fashion show, although it does garner lots of attention, I can tell you, maybe. But do you really want to do it without a SONA and go the road of, SONA via WhatsApp? Think about it. John in Davidton, hi.
Hello, how are you?
Yeah, good indeed, John. Go for it.
Yeah, I'm very worried. I wonder whether we South Africans, as well as people who have been elected and hired to deal with South African problem, the issue of deploying soldiers in the township. I've got a cousin who's working for the South African Defence Force. They deploy them to deal with illegal miners. He says they want to deal with the problem, but the police are preventing them because they benefit. And this is before the Madlanga Commission. I wonder whether this time there will be commitment to deal with this problem. Really, to be honest, we don't want to solve the problems. Really, even you guys in the media don't ask the correct questions that really make these people to deal with serious issues.
We don't ask the correct
questions.
questions.
Really fail to deal with soldiers and police. We fail to deal with illegal miners.
Okay. We don't ask the questions.
And really, like you are saying, people are saying that we are afraid to come out with information to testify because it doesn't help except, selling your life to these criminals. There's a solution. They said the soldiers, when they get there, they are non-negotiable. They want to deal with the problem. But the police don't want them. They prevent it. They actually prevent it. Are we saying this next time they will deal with these problems?
Well, listen, they're supposed to be dealing with it. I don't think the media is turning a blind eye. In fact, that's why I think the media has been very critical of many, many things. But John, I hear you. Thanks for that in Davidton. Right. Let's pick up. There's a whole lot more, some to do with the SONA and some other things. So here's another SONA point.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Flores from the beautiful Western Cape. Winelands, yes. First of all, happy World Radio Day. Yes, legendary names like Barbara, Masakela comes up, Van der Walt, Tony de Souza. Yeah, I was quite fond of radio in the 70s and 80s. Oh, and by the way, my one word for the SONA, deja vu. Have a good job, bye-bye.
Deja vu. As it goes, repeat performance. Okay.
Afternoon, Ashraf. Ashraf, this thing of having matric certificate is just a mere entry requirement to join the police force. It's problematic because, some of these police officers, they can't read their own statements. How can they draft a reasonable docket if they cannot read what they have written? It's a problem. There must be a way of checking whether you passed or you didn't pass that matric, and how much grades did you pass that matric.
But I mean, are you really saying, forget even matric, if someone has done grade 10, you tell me they can't read a document? Really? They should be able to read fluently by the time they even get to high school. Really? It's beyond that. It's more than that.
Hi, Ashraf and the SFM listener. Ashraf, if you can visit the Ekurhuleni Metropolis department, it's father, mother, sister, brother, and the nephew who are working there. You find the family of 4, family of 3 working at the Metropolis. It's well, like I started to see that, it's nice to be the Metropolis because you're becoming rich within a short period of time.
Okay, another point there, mate. And by the way, there's a comment about the cricket, and there was a fascinating cricket match that was played earlier today, right?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. I was on Facebook yesterday, and people were talking about the Zimbabwe-Australia game, this cricket match. And then the states where that Australia has never beaten Zimbabwe in a T20 match. So I was laughing there, people, where do they give their statistics? And it looks like it's the truth, eh? Hey, it's a shocker, eh? Andrew from Butterworth.
So the shocker is one, that Zimbabwe beat Australia in cricket, and Afghanistan almost beat South Africa 3 times in one game. And then they lost it. Yeah, wow.
Good afternoon, Afrash. I've been listening to this thing of Madlanga Commission regarding this IPT guy. It looks like the Metropolis here, they were just doing the way they like. And in particular, this Mkhwanazi seems to be a very, 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 very delinquent police officer. And he's supposed to be, if he's being charged, funeka ukuthi sithathe isitshixo sisilahlele le elwandle. It's a pity the Robben Island is no longer there. In fact, we've made a mistake. These are the guys that were supposed to be going to Robben Island. All of this, after, so that they must learn, and this thing must never happen again. That's 500 in Sprayview.
Okay, where did you get the name from, the 500? I meant to ask you this the other day. I mean, there was that surfing thing, the Gunston 500, right? Let me know next time you call in. Where did you get the name? Pali Lahotla knows about numbers. He's going to be talking to us after 5. Don't miss that.
Good afternoon, Mr. Atraf and your producer and all the listeners of SAFM. Mr. Atraf, I like to talk regard to what is the use to have a lot of commission in this country, but we don't see anybody's going to jail. How many names that is mentioned on those commission, Mr. Madlanga and Mr. Those one there in the parliament? I forget the name of that judge, Mr. Lukhanyana, if I'm not mistaken. But we don't see any justices come behind those people. Last time we were having a commission of Mr. Ndade Zondo, but we don't see any people is arrested. So what is the use to have those commission? That is my question. Sia from Cape Town. Thank you.
Interesting. I mean, last week, Friday, on the Fireside Chat, I had Advocate Muzi Sekakane, who actually defended Jacob Zuma and that Zondo commission. But he made the point that there's never a commission set up by a leader where the leader doesn't know the outcome of the commission. I'm not saying you must agree with him. That's the world according to him. So when a leader sets up a commission, he knows the outcome before the commission's over. Like, he just knows it. Beyond that, your point is right. I mean, maybe especially with the Zondo, we probably need to do a roundup sometime, because we've been overcrowded in many ways by the ad hoc committee and the Madlanga Commission to say what were the actual findings and what were the recommendations and where are all these people based upon those recommendations, like a real scorecard.
Good afternoon, SAFM, and to listeners. It's Sullivan Gabler from Durban. Mr. Ashraf, I'd like to pose a question to the municipality, or someone could assist with answering it. Every financial year, the eThekwini municipality allocates a certain budget to critical essential services. For instance, like the water. Don't they look for feedback at the end of the financial term? Where is this budget spent? And when these budgets are audited, doesn't the financial auditor ask questions to show the return on these investments, how it has brought back essential service like repairs to aging infrastructure? Thank you.
Well, I mean, linked to that is the president. What did he say? How many local municipalities are not functioning properly? Like, if anybody can remember, if Tembo Keys can, but like, the number was frightening. It's like, it's crazy. How can that be possible? Not one, not two, like 100, more than 100. Wow.
Ashraf, I just wanted to talk about this halapalu about Panyaza taking a bath in a hotel. I mean, South Africans, for God's sake. There's nothing wrong about that. He's a premier after all. We are not the same. He can afford that. And he must go and do other community work project. Clean. We're not expecting him to come dirty. He can afford that, yes. We're not the same. I mean, if ever there's no electricity, so if Panyaza went to eat at Ocean Basket, we're going to complain that. Why? He must go and eat fat cook. Hi, guys, come on. Must do his job.
Listen, your point is taken, but there is a big difference. You see, he brought it up. Like, he didn't say, where are you going for holiday? And someone says, I'm actually going to Polokwane for a holiday, December. And he says, I'm actually going to Taiwan or Thailand for holiday. He's not saying that. He spoke about the water story in the hotel as a point of saying, I'm just like you. Me and my family are just like you. You see, look at me. We have no water. We have no special pipes into my home. So when we have a water problem, we all experience it. And look, I have to go to a hotel. It is in that context that it has become an issue. If he simply says, I have privileges, because in fact he was saying, I'm like you, which means he's denying the privileges or lowering the level of privileges he's got, and that's where the difference is. All right, listen, that's it for now. We're going to go, Friday fireside chat. Paddy Lehotla, he is a man who's always got 100,000 things to say. I wonder what he's going to say just now. Let's get the news first. It's 5 o'clock. Here's Greg.
Thank you, Ashraf. Proposed amendment to the Credit Act welcomed, and Mozambique's Chopper thanks SA for its support. Good day to you. The Credit Association of SA's welcomed government's proposed amendment to the National Credit Act. This after President Cyril Ramaphosa, during his State of the Nation address last night, announced that the National Credit Act would be amended in order to make it easier for small and medium enterprises to access credit at a lower cost. CEO of the Credit Association, Leonie van Pletsen.
We support reforms that strengthen responsible lending while enabling compliant non-bank financial institutions to serve more South Africans in a sustainable manner. We will continue to engage constructively with government and regulators to ensure that amendments to the NCA enhance both consumer protection and access to formal credit.
The SA Farmers Development Association says it's concerned about the latest developments regarding Tongaat Hewlett, which is filed for provisional liquidation. Tongaat Hewlett, which accounts for 27% of the total sugar production in the sector, was placed under business rescue in 2022. The association's Siyabonga Madlanga.
The news of Tongaat Hewlett getting into liquidation, provisional liquidation, has hit us with a bit of sadness. We are aware, because we were made aware by management, that this is perhaps the direction they are taking, because it looks like the business rescue process is falling off. What we have, has helped us regain confidence is the commitment, both from government and the respective stakeholders in the likes of Vision. This new phase is being received with an intention to continue rescuing the business, not to really break it down. This is a critical sector of the sugar industry. Tongaat Hewlett is one of the biggest stakeholders in the sugar industry.
The Madlanga Commission's heard how Kuleleni Metro police officials, together with a civilian, allegedly stole precious stones valued at 14 million rand. Images presented at the commission showed 2 Metro police members and a civilian at the residential premises of the complainant. The Assistant Director of Police Watchdog IPID, Thulani Magagula, told the commission that a case of corruption has been opened.
The member stated that they seized the articles and handed them to JMPD officers. Once again, there is no proof that they booked any articles from the operation on the SAP 13 register. Indeed, they could not, as there is no case, as they claim by them registered by SAPS of such an investigation. It is proven that they abuse their powers by operating outside their jurisdiction, i.e. Ekurhuleni.
Gauteng Education Transport Services in Sedibeng, south of Johannesburg, says it's received a police report in connection with a scholar transport crash in Vanderbijl Park last month, in which 14 learners were killed. Initial investigations by police revealed that the driver of the minibus taxi, which collided with a truck, didn't have a professional driving permit, and the minibus didn't have proper documents to operate. The organisations also confirmed that the owner of the taxi was its deputy chairperson. The Transport Services Sitembisa Khadebe.
The confirmation is we've called Mr. Finger to discuss issue according to your report, subs. I think after the meeting we'll get the feedback if we are charging him Simchacha with what.
The Mozambican President Daniel Chapos thanked the government and people of South Africa for supporting his country. Mozambique recently experienced devastating floods, while peace and security has returned to the Cabo Delgado region affected by a deadly insurgency. Chapos spoke to the SABC at the AU summit in Ethiopia.
I want to say thanks so much, South Africa. Thanks so much, all South African people, because you know that we have a big challenge now, the floods in Mozambique. We received all the help of our neighbors' country. I'm talking about South Africa, Zimbabwe, Zambia, Tanzania, Malawi. That's why I'm here to say thanks so much, Tanzania, and all our countries in our continent.
The top story, the Credit Association of SA's welcome government's proposed amendment to the National Credit Act. That's SAFM News, I'm Greg Goss.
Denies treating Mario Masha unfairly. Proteas all set for New Zealand tomorrow, and Val counting on home advantage as South Africa face Bosnia in Davis Cup. More details at 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
In Gauteng, the M1 southbound queuing towards Boysons, the N12 R24 westbound in Bedfordview, slow moving on both routes towards Kiluli's Interchange and Grayston Drive in Sandton, slow moving near 11th Street. In KZN, there's a stationary vehicle on the N3 northbound after Harry Gwala Road and a stationary vehicle on the N3 southbound after New England Road. In Cape Town, the N2 outbound is slow moving towards Umue, the N1 outbound slow moving towards the M5 Kook interchange, and Main Road is slow moving through Cork Bay. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide.
The pain of losing a loved one is never easy. At Clientele, we understand that burying loved ones with dignity truly matters. Our funeral plans pay out cash within just 24 hours, and you receive 200 Rand airtime when you claim. Plus, we cover up to 13 people on one plan. SMS SAFM to 48031. That's 48031. Clientele Life is an authorized FSP and licensed life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Hurry! Get supersized savings at Spar for 4 days only. Get 2-liter Brooks Oro Squash for $34.99. Save 11 Rand. Or 1.5-liter Coca-Cola regular only. Buy 2 for 32 Rand. Save 10 Rand. Price is valid from 13 till 16 February. While stocks last. Max 5 deals per product per customer. Only at Spar. T's and C's apply.
Sorry I'm late, Sevi. Had to fetch my lucky putter. No worries, let's go. We're teeing off in an hour. Great. We're taking your car. Can't. It's already taken. What do you mean taken? It was right here when I left a few minutes ago. I sold it to Weber Cars and made a whole lot of green. Birdie told me that's the best way to sell your car. Not only the best way, it's the fair way. Kom ons vat die pad.
Don't be doof, be savvy. We buy cars geared for a fast sale, geared for you.
For 90 years, one voice has informed, challenged, and connected a nation. SAFM, South Africa's national English public radio station. Established in 1936 as the SABC's very first service, the A program evolving through the English service, Radio South Africa to SAFM in 1995, shaping thought and strengthening democracy. From a full-spectrum station to a trusted home of news and talk, SAFM continues to lead the conversations 90 years strong. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. This is Tulasizwe Similane on the Morning Brief.
Just your overall impressions of how far along we went in getting answers to some of the questions you have on day one of Paul O'Sullivan's appearance before your committee.
The best bet yesterday when I said to him, is there anyone that can vouch for this? Is there anyone that can tell us more about your time? He couldn't actually tell us about that. But I guess that's where it all started. It started with him being a reservist in SAPS, and that's where he got his fingers into the cookie jar and things just got completely out of hand. 1 minute he's got a degree, next minute he doesn't have any formal qualification, so I'm not sure where we're at. I specifically asked him yesterday, do you have any degrees, do you have any qualifications, and he said no. And 5 minutes later, the same question was posed to him and he said yes.
Geraldine James is Action SA.
Big stories of the day on the Morning Brief. The soundtrack of your life with Ernest Pillay.
They were more than just songs. They were the backdrop to your best days and the ones that change everything. The soundtrack of your life with me, Ernest Pillay, brings you iconic classics and hidden gems that spoke to your heart then
and still do now. Whether you're driving, relaxing, or just remembering, let the music take you right back. The soundtrack of your life. With Ernest Pillay, it's about your past, your story, and it's all right here on your favorite station, Saturdays and Sundays, 1 to 4 p.m.
This is SAFM. Ashraf Garda is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio.
Right, we got to fireside chat mode. We've had some fascinating guests in the last few weeks. And by the way, you can pick up the podcast of all those conversations. Go safm.co.za, then /podcast, then the National Pulse, and you will find it all. Right, so how do we top all that we've had over the last few weeks? We chat to Pali Lahotla, Dr. Pali Lahotla, who you know him, is the former statistician general, so head of Stats SA. He's a numbers person, scenario planner, big opinion maker and opinion taker, thought leader, never keeps quiet. I don't think so. We're going to talk to him up to 6 o'clock. So we're looking forward to that. Party, good chatting to you. Thanks for joining us on this Friday fireside chat.
Probably upside down.
Well, you're not, but you know, upside down would be interesting because I know you're on Zoom, right, as opposed to in studio. But now you're upside down, yeah. So it may come out as upside down, which is a bit strange because you support Mamelodi Sundowns. And, you know, with the sky being the limit, upside down doesn't just work, I can tell you.
Okay, let me... how about this, Ashraf? Well, okay. I think I'm upside down to show that things will be upside up in the future, but for now...
Oh, goodness, yeah. And I was going to ask you about the sauna, but you're upside down now. So how do we start, you know? Let's just see if it's okay from...
Put it this way. Am I okay now?
Yeah, you're okay now. That's fine. That's just stay like that. All Perfect. Right. Okay. All right. So, well, good to talk to you. Thanks for giving off your time. So let me start with the obvious one. Sauna, yesterday. One word for you that best encapsulates your opinion of the sauna. Just a word first.
You know, I had a preview of what the sauna could be, having not seen it, and having put my hand out there on what I expected of the sauna. I found it not discussing the things that I thought should be discussed. And my basis for the critique is that I look at the facts. I certainly look at the facts. I think at the beginning of the sauna was exaggerating that which was not in the facts. Around that we are growing, that jobs are coming. I mean, if you want to create, to drop unemployment to about even 14%, even 20%. At the moment when you say jobs are coming and you have just dropped unemployment by a point of a figure, a decimal at 33%, and you see that it could even be a statistical error, by the way. So to read that as jobs are dropping, jobs are coming, really is not right. We should say these things for what they are. If we talk about growth, a growth of less than 1% is not growth when we are in such deficit. And there is not evidence that that growth will change. You talk about ensuring that we invest in infrastructure and so on. That takes a long time. And if you look at the prospects by the IMF and the World Bank, who have been in the engine of our lackluster growth, they tend to be quite accurate in estimating where we will be by probably in another 2 years, which will be 1.9% growth. So there's no prospect for growth. Those guys are correct because they know what is in the foundry, the IMF and the World Bank. Until we drop their literature and their concept of truth of economic development, we cannot grow more than that 1.9%. To talk about that we have been removed from the whatever, that grey listing or whatever. That is neither here nor there. It doesn't change the situation.
All right, but I want to run through those, Party. But let me just start with that first point that I'd like to get. So, all things considered, if you put your feelings down into just one word, not even a sentence, a word, what would that be regarding Sona?
I was disappointed, but I didn't expect any much more because the prelude to that was not convincing. So, to anticipate a different Sona, you actually have to look at the infrastructure around the planning and the plans and what is being brought to the table. Nothing convincing was brought to the table.
So, I mean, over the years,
I was underwhelmed.
Okay, underwhelmed and disappointed. But let's say over the years, and I mean, you've been involved from the time of the Mandela era and running all through that. You've been at close quarters to events like this. You know, what then, if this is a disappointing Sona, what then makes an impressive Sona?
You know, when Mbeki came up in 2007 and quoted Prophet Isaiah, and that will be led forth in peace, and the trees will clap, the leaves of the trees will clap in the fields. It was a real Sona because growth was at 5% on average, unemployment still high, but was down from 28% to 21%. Gross fixed capital formation was pumping, a quarter of the GDP was pumped into the economy every year for 5 years. And the lending, access to finance was growing at 15%. Well, should we say that inflation 4% is anything new? It was already at that point anyway. There wasn't really anything. And when you try to boast about inflation, when you don't have the money to buy anything, what then does inflation actually mean? It means very little.
So, okay.
I'd rather choose a job and go and work and get my independence to access things than to be a slave.
So,
and be mitigated by the inflation.
So you gave the example of Thabo Mbeki with high growth rate and generally a lot more promising as a country at that time, right? I would say that then it's easier for you to deliver a Sona in that era compared to now. At that time, you had no commissions. The issue of the HIV/AIDS denialism maybe came later on. So right now, Ramaphosa has had to deal with the Zondo Commission. In the past tense, he's had to deal with state capture. He's had to deal with the other commissions and other things now. May or may not all be of his own making. The point I want to make is, what then would the responsibility of him be now as a president when the numbers can't lie? You're a stats man. You can only exaggerate 1 to 1.1. You can't say 1% growth is 10% growth. So what options does that leave him with then?
He's really in a very tight spot, a very difficult spot, and of economic policies that he's presided over. You see, Ashraf, in 2020, business came to government with targets. And they said to South Africa, we will grow at 6%, we'll do this, we'll do that. At that point, the president had the benefit of locking the door and throwing the key away and say, business, you are going to deliver these targets. And I want to see how you are going to deliver them. I'll put you with my bureaucrats here and we work on a program so that we can deal with these targets. What did he do? Government ignored business. And then problems mounted. And now, when government went back to business, business was dictating terms. So he had lost the plot. So he no longer has power over business. That's why he has put business at the treasury without the Department of Planning and Monitoring and Evaluation, which is dead anyway, or the Planning Commission, which has nothing to offer. So when you don't have a plan and when you don't have scenarios, at the moment, implemented scenarios are outside government. When you don't have scenarios, you don't have guardrails that give you a sense of where you are. You may not have the techniques and the planning capacity, but scenarios are crucial. They were as crucial at the time of Mandela when we adopted the Montflair scenarios. They were not the best, but we had guardrails. And those scenarios were followed by the memories of the future under President Mbeki. And then they were followed by the future we chose. And when you look at the future we chose, it's not because of absence of knowledge. It's because people don't read and they don't read the signs. Because what we are in now was actually articulated under the Muvango scenario that South Africa 2025 will be at this point if it doesn't take care. And from 2009, we didn't take care up to the point when we got to where we are in 2025.
So So is scenarios and vision the same thing?
No, scenarios are not the same thing as vision, because if your scenario is Muvango and you say that's your vision, of course, that's the vision we chose. Now we are surprised that we are in that. You know, in 2026, after President Mbeki, 2005, after President Mbeki decommissioned Msholozi, we had to go and look at what those scenarios could be if we don't change. Now, we looked at those scenarios in 2007 and projected a South Africa in 2025. You know, the content is so accurate to the date and to the detail, to the seventh decimal point. So that's why scenarios are important. And when you are in that path, that's the scenario you fall in. And we didn't change, we continued. And we think that at this point, growth can come back. No, the future we chose is the future we chose, and that's where we are in 2025. We ignored, we abandoned scenarios at that point altogether. From 2009, there were no scenarios discussion in South Africa up to today.
So why
would scenarios are outside government?
So why would
any government that ignores scenarios is not a government that can lead?
Okay, so why would the president deliberately ignore scenarios when he hears people like yourself, if not in close quarters, even on national radio and TV? He listens to people like you talking and saying scenarios matter, they work, they have worked before. Why would he deliberately ignore it? He's got advisors around him. If it's in his interest that South Africa is a successful country, because clearly it entrenches then his leadership and the leadership of his party.
Once you don't have scenarios, then you can't even have a plan, because when you what are you planning on, and where do you think you are drifting towards? What are your guardrails? Your plan cannot be an absolute, because scenarios give you the landscape of what may happen and what could happen, and you know how to deal with the scenario if it drifts to a particular. So it's no brainer. That's why Montflair scenarios. Because the RDP didn't have scenarios either when we came into after post-liberation. The Montflair scenarios were brought in, and Madiba chose the flight of the flamingos. Of course, the flight of the flamingos didn't provide inclusive growth and inclusive. It provided inclusive democracy, but it didn't provide inclusive growth, and that's why we had to drift to the memories of the future. And that's when we had Shosholoza moment over a period of time. But we saw that that was going to be.
Oh, I think we've just, as the word Shosholoza moment came, so just for a moment, we lost the Party Lehotla moment. We are talking to him, former Statistician General, head of Stats SA. So he's a numbers person, deals with stats, and he has strong views. So in fact, he's suggesting that we have no scenarios. And as a result of that, that weakens South Africa. Later on, in fact, maybe I've got time for 3 quick calls or WhatsApp messages. You can do that. WhatsApp, which is 0614 104 107, to call in live, 086 000 2032. We're always tight on this format, so maybe 3 calls I can take, WhatsApp or calls maximum. So partly then, just to be clear, we want to move on now, right? I'm asking you, because I'm not sure if you heard this correctly earlier. Why would a president, knowing how important scenarios are to his own success and the success of his party, political party, why would he not adopt that?
Well, let me answer this way, because when we mounted and introduced the Indula Meti scenarios outside government, the president was the first to be informed about the Indlamiti scenarios. To his credit, as though he knew something, he said our Gwara Gwara scenario, our Naila Walk scenario, and our Isibura scenario. From the Gwara Gwara scenario, he said he thinks that there must be a more worst case scenario. And our scenarios were a bit mild. The Gwara Gwara scenario was a bit mild. At that, he was very, very correct. But I think, having said so, one would have expected that you then embrace the scenarios, embed them into government, and then deal with something that was worse than Gwara Gwara. Because as we re-looked the scenarios, because things changed, we came with the Hadida bed, the Weaver bed, and the vulture culture. The vulture culture is actually what President Ramaphosa probably, when he said he expected a worse scenario, he was expecting, and he's got it now. The vulture culture.
Let's just go back to the SONA then. So you said you were disappointed, but some people are saying, in fact, he was very, very promising. Did he say anything that really appealed to you?
See, when you don't have scenarios, you cannot deal with economic prospects or social prospects because you don't have an anchor for those kinds of things. All we have is wishes. The facts are very clear and they are pointing in an opposite direction. Now, where do you have the platform to hope for different when the facts are very clear? Yes, I wish tomorrow I could be whatever it is that I could be, but the facts around me tell me that I can't be that. So not accepting the reality that we are having, it's very sad. I mean, I've created this Lehotla ledger as I was trying to write my 8 volumes of leather-bound books, 450 pages each. And this thing that came deepened the analysis of what is happening in the country. And in that deep analysis, you can see the relevance of the Indlamiti scenarios of the Weaver bed, the Hadida, and the vulture culture. And the vulture culture is the most palpable option.
Just the last thing on the SONA then. According to you, not so much the SONA, but you, what is, in your opinion, forget Ramaphosa, in your opinion, what is the state of our nation right now?
The state of our nation is really very bad. We are a vulture culture by all counts. It plays out in the Madlanga Commission. And I think Mkwanazi did something great by opening up that space. And of course, the president, to his credit, opened the Madlanga Commission because if he did, and I was one of the critiques that was the use of a commission, but I think by allowing that, the depth of the crisis is becoming very obvious. And we can see it in there. So it's not helping us, not helping our growth, but certainly it is actually showing us the difficulties that we are yet to experience.
And therefore, of all the issues that we are faced as a country right now, and there are many, what for you needs our most urgent attention? What overarching issue needs our most urgent attention that needs resolving?
I've been working on this ledger, which is very interesting, how it navigates the space. And it navigates the space such that we can interrogate ourselves at the level of 80 households. If we can weld our being on those 80 households and create an understanding around that, then we'll know what interventions we'll have to make.
So tell me more, 80 households, explain that.
Yeah. In those 80 households, it tells us about the conditions, and then we can actually walk the path. You see, I'm not promoting the Lehotla land. This emerged out of my trying to work on my volumes. But the volumes in their own right were anchored on the Muslim responsible leadership. And the Muslim responsible leadership creates an ideology and a path and it maps itself on this 80 households mesh across the country and give us an analysis of who are the vultures that are extracting value out of society. Until we do that, because that actually provides us with our understanding of what is the district development model and how each one of those 80 households in space link with another 80 with another 80, be it in Cape Town, be it in Gauteng, all those things are related. And that's the architecture of what you would call a district development model. For instance, I was looking at education, and I know that there are about 200 foundations in the country that look at education, such as Kagiso Trust, Sasol Foundation. They appear to be leading a particular direction. And in that particular direction that they deal with, there is a diffusion of their influence. What you need to do is to go to the 80 into this 130,000 nodes and say, what is the degree of diffusion that can improve education in South Africa? That this 200 or 400 foundations, if they pool their resources together, following their own mandates, can actually create diffusions that are overlapping, but in an organized fashion.
Okay.
So you can take on education, you can take industrialization, you can take each one of those.
All right.
In an interconnected measure.
I've said earlier on, you're a stats man, former statistician, general head of stats, so you always know the numbers. How did it all start? I'm going to find out. Party, you have a break because we're going to get news and sport, so you can chill for a couple of minutes. Then I want to get to your story about how it all started for you. So right now, let's get the news headlines with Greg.
Quick look at the headlines. Former President Thabo Mbeki's filed papers in the High Court, joining former President Zuma's review application to challenge retired Justice Sisi Kampepe's refusal to recuse herself as chairperson of the TRC inquiry. The Credit Association of SA's welcomed government's proposed amendments to the National Credit Act, and health officials in the U.S. state of South Carolina say they're working to contain the largest single measles outbreak in the country in more than 3 decades. A full update at 6 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N14 southbound in Centurion, slow moving towards Brakfontein interchange. The R59 northbound in Alberton has a crash before Michelle Avenue, and on Winnie Mandela Drive northbound in Fourways, a crash near the N1 highway. In KZN, the N3 eastbound queuing towards Spaghetti Junction, the N3 eastbound in Pietermaritzburg queuing towards Ashburton, and the M4 northbound queuing towards Virginia Airport. In Cape Town, the N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound queuing towards Hospital Bend, the R44 northbound in Paarl queuing towards Klapmuts Crossing, and Main Road outbound in Observatory queuing towards the N2 highway. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Duming Khapele.
Right, Jimmy, it's a big continental football weekend, right?
Yes, it definitely is. And former Kaizer Chiefs captain Itumeleng Nkune believes that the team has worked hard enough in this season's CAF Confederations Cup, and he has no doubt that they will qualify for the knockout stage. Chiefs face Zamalek tomorrow. They lead the group with 10 points ahead of Zamalek on 8 points and Al Masri on 7 points, and need only a draw. But Nkune believes even a win is possible.
No, what's key is for Kaizer Chiefs to go away to Zamalek and come back with 3 points. I remember there's permutations, your head-to-head, like they don't need to go out there and think of a draw. But Kaizer Chiefs' mentality should be we are going away to Zamalek to come back with full 3 points and win the game convincingly.
In the other confed fixture, Stellenbosch take on Singida Black Stars in a dead rubber. While Mamelodi Sundowns are also on continental duty this weekend, facing former coach Rulani Mugwena's MC Alger at Loftus Versfeld tomorrow in the CAF Champions League. Now, the Brazilians are third in Group C, while 2 points behind leaders Al Hilal and a point behind second place Alger. Now, Downs need a win to advance to the next round, while MC Alger just need a draw or win, and kickoff is at 3 p.m. Meanwhile, MC's Alger's coach Mokoena has strongly denied reports that suspended analyst Mario Masha leaked information to him ahead of matches against Sundowns. Masha was suspended on over allegations that he shared tactical details and training footage with Mokoena. In the same breath, Sundowns head coach Miguel Cardoso says that he didn't treat Mario unfairly.
I just spoke about that, about the person that you said, because I wanted people to understand that I didn't treat him bad, because I read that I treated him bad. And that is not true. I gave him a lot of love, consideration, and promotion. That's just what I wanted to clarify, nothing more. Otherwise, I would not have spoken that. I just need to also make you understand that I have a character and I'm a very vertical as a person. And I don't treat people bad, because I don't want the fans from Sundowns to think that I'm any tyranno and I don't treat with maximum respect everybody in Clorco, because I do. That was just because of that, I clarified that. Regarding the club position, it's not up to me. With all respect, I respect too much my club to answer your question. You must not need to understand. The club also understands very well that it's a process. For sure, in the right moment, the club will speak. But the club knows when to speak. There's a lot of people with a high level of responsibility and commitment that knows very well how to do the things. We need to do the things the right way. And in Sundowns, we do the things the right way.
Elsewhere, Igor Tudor has agreed to become Tottenham's interim head coach until the end of the season. The final details of his contract still need to be completed, but both sides have reached a verbal agreement. Tudor will return to Croatia briefly before coming back to starting training with the team early next week. Tottenham plan to appoint a permanent replacement for Thomas Frank at the end of the season. In terms of cricket, Proteas captain Aiden Markram says that South Africa will take important lessons into their clash against New Zealand tomorrow. After a dramatic win over Afghanistan, the Proteas were pushed all the way in their T20 World Cup match on Wednesday, needing 2 super overs to secure victory. And Markram admitted that there are areas in his team that needs to improve, especially after being taken to the brink in what was a must-win game. South Africa have now won their first 2 matches of the tournament, including their opening victory over Canada, and they're just close to securing a place in the Super 8 stage. However, Markram says that the team knows that they will need to be sharper when they face New Zealand in their next match. In terms of tennis, South Africa's Davis Cup captain Pete Novel has says that he is delighted with the draw that pits his team against Bosnia and in a World Cup Group 2 tie this September. Novel is relieved to have secured a 4th consecutive home tie, believing that the support of local fans will give his side a crucial edge. It will be the first time between the nations since 2020 when Bosnia won 3-1, and Novia insists that home advantage could make the difference this time around, with the tie scheduled for the 18th to the 20th of September. On that note, it is a wrap from my side. Ke nna Tumi Nkgapele, Modimo.
BVB's current mission is to stay close to the log leaders and win every match in the second round of the league. Meanwhile, the Carnival Club is eager to reveal their secret plan on match day. This is the Bundesliga, football as it's meant to be. Catch Borussia Dortmund versus FSV Mainz on Friday, 13 February at 9:30 p.m. Live on SABC Plus and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Today we celebrate the power of radio to inform, inspire, and connect the world under the theme Radio and Artificial Intelligence, where timeless storytelling meets the future of innovation. This is World Radio Day, a reminder for the voices that bring us closer, the stories that shape our lives, and the conversations that matter. At SAFM, we are proud to be your trusted companion, keeping you informed and engaged every single day. Happy World Radio Day from SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Right, so Eskom is upgrading old electricity meters with modern smart meters, giving you clarity, control, and confidence. Now, with your new meter, you'll be able to see your usage in real time, giving you the power to manage your electricity with ease, right? So smart meters are accurate and help Eskom respond faster to issues. Now, do allow the authorized Eskom installers access to install your new meter. If you need to know more, go to the website, that's the Eskom website, Eskom, redefining for a better future.
Ashraf Garda is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio.
And the last look into the markets for the week with Jimmy Moyaha. Jimmy?
Our listeners, we're closing out the week in negative territory, not where we want to be, but it is understandable considering there was a sell-off in Asian markets, and it looks like it's, for now, slightly isolated to the equity space. Bond yields are still in positive territory. The commodities market seemingly having a bit of a rebound from yesterday's sell-off. But if we look at those Asian markets, all down more than 1%. Biggest loser in Asian markets, the Hang Seng in Hong Kong, down 1.73%. That filtered into our own local markets, which couldn't seem to find momentum today. Industrials down 0.8%, financials down 0.75%, resources down 2.4%, Bolshoi down 1.3%, the 40 down 1.45%. If we look at the currency side of it, that seemed to hold a bit of ground, especially in the case of the rand. 15 rand 95 against the US dollar, 21.74 against the British pound, and 1 euro would set you back 18 rand 92 cents. 1 Australian dollar, 11 rand and 28 cents. A Bitcoin is slightly stronger, $69,000 a Bitcoin, or a little over R1 million from that perspective. US markets at the moment are trading in positive territory in the case of the S&P and the Dow Jones. The Nasdaq down about 0.8%. We of course got US CPI data coming through today, cooling a little more than expected, and this is alongside the CPI data that we got out of Switzerland as well, back in deflation territory there. So interesting numbers from an inflation perspective. It doesn't look as though inflation seems to be worrying a lot of the markets at the moment, but a quick look at those commodities that I touched on. Brent crude, $67.35 a barrel, below $70, that's good for us. The silver price back at $78 a fine ounce. Gold is back above $5,000 a fine ounce, having dipped below that. Platinum is still below 2,100, but palladium is back at $1,700. So going into next week, we will see how the middle of the month or so of February pans out, and potentially what that means for the final trading week that would then take place thereafter. I think the data points that came up this week leave the markets with quite a bit to digest, and we will see if there is anything that continues to concern the markets. But it seems as though the data coming through are fairly standard in markets, just balancing out the runs that we've had of late. We go into the weekend with a stronger rand, slightly weaker equity markets, but all in all, is still optimistic. Back to you, Ashraf.
Right, thanks. Have a great weekend. We will connect again on Monday, Jimmy Moyaha. Pali Lahotla, however, is who we're going to connect with right after this.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
So the fireside chat today with Dr. Pali Lahotla. He's had lots of things to say about the SONA, about the president, about the absence of scenario planning, and about where we are as a country. And there could be many other things I'll talk to him about. By the way, happy with maybe 3 quick WhatsApp messages if you're up for it. 0614 104 107. But I want to find out how it all started for Pali Lahotla, because I mean, there's lots of things we know about him, but what else? So Pali, talk to me about that. Where, what piqued your interest when you were a young boy that put you on this journey of being a stats person?
I'm a son of teachers. My mother and father were teachers, and growing in a rural area, you get you are more or less an outlier, although you are living a rural village life. Where reading, where it is the norm, and my brothers, because I'm the last born, had been reading. So you get a little bit inquisitive, and you look at livestock somewhat with an eye. And my father was one of the people who counted people in 1966. during the first census of Lesotho. So this word census was very interesting. And when we exchanged two calves for an ox, it was a brown Afrikaner ox. I named that census. I didn't know that it would follow me to run the first post-apartheid census, which, by the way, when you look at all these censuses in their different vintages, including the one that the Statistician General has run in 2022, is the basis of a summative evaluation of where South Africa is today. And when you look at that summative evaluation, no doubt by 1996, things had changed because Madiba had said a few things about what had to be done, like free health services for mothers that are lactating, and so on and so on. And you see those results in the 96 census.
Okay.
You even see better results in 2001. And then improvements that happened towards 2011, but you see reversals ever since
after that. Okay.
2011. So you find that a third of the municipalities by 2016 had actually reversed their poverty status.
Yeah, wow.
I've been looking at multidimensional poverty, Rashad, Ashraf, and the multidimensional poverty shows that the spread of poverty of 1996, while the average is declining, but the spread has intensified towards even higher poverty levels for those who are at the end of the streak. So these are fascinating statistics, and if we don't pay attention to that, we will miss the point. I mean, only 12% of municipalities are in your foundry where things can happen. The rest of the 88, particularly those who are in the vulture vortex of vultures, and those that are actually volatile, constitute the biggest proportion in that remainder of 88. So the situation is dire.
So just, I mean,
so when you listen to the State of the Nation address against those facts, then you say we live in different worlds.
So let me ask you this. Of all the stats that you've repeated in the media, in the country, at presentations around the world and the continent, what is the one stat, the one piece of information that you most love repeating?
I don't know, I repeated so many. But the one I loved most to repeat was that 62% of fathers say they are married against 38% of mothers. And that is rapture. And if we don't understand the meaning of that rapture, then we'll go in circles around growth is coming, there are green shoots, and so on and so on. And that rapture is so racialized that it traps black people in situations that are unpalatable. The second that I like to repeat is that the progression ratios of blacks is declining. In fact, the progression ratio at degree level by blacks was improving even under apartheid. Now it is declining. Why? Because, it's not because black people have become cognitively immature, but it is the lack of understanding of this rapture of 68% of fathers saying they are married against 32%. Because our policy that tries to address the fees must fall is blind to this very statistic that I'm talking about. And that blindness cuts across everything.
Okay. Wow.
And that is why, despite our declarations and marches and everything, gender-based violence is not going to change. It cannot be changed by T-shirts and marches.
All right,
it has to be changed by welding our issues on these 80 households and dealing with them house by house.
Okay, I'm going to ask you. I'm going to ask you to give me one more absolutely mind-blowing stat. Then we move on. One more stat about anything.
You want to? I've given you one on the beginning of life. I've given you one on the progression of life. I'll give you the last one, which is how you try to organize life, which is work. In terms of work, there were more people in the age group 15 to 34 in 2008 working. That is, the number of people working then were 4.5 million amongst the 20 to 34, and 1.5 million for those working at 15 to 24 and 24 to 35. So 6 million people were working there, 1.5 plus 4.5. Now, the 4.5 have dropped to 4 million, and the 1.5 have dropped to 1 million in a growing population. I'm telling you that deceleration of development of a significant nature, and it guarantees that there will not be intergenerational value in South Africa. That's why my letter asks the question on Mushobi, who says, you must know yourself, you must know the people you are leading, you must organize stakeholders, you must be productive, you must use new instruments of power to guarantee intergenerational value and use integrated reporting. There's no integrated reporting in government. There's no intergenerational value. There's no organizing of stakeholders for productivity. Therefore, the vulture culture is an ultimate.
Yeah. Whoa.
That unemployment is a clear indication of, in a growing population, there is less in those age groups working than they were working in 2008. Therefore,
Right.
there are no green shoots.
Okay, I want to look at some of your thoughts just in terms of books you read and other things which we'll do right after this.
BVB's current mission is to stay close to the log leaders and win every match in the second round of the league. Meanwhile, the Carnival Club is eager to reveal their secret plan on match day. This is the Bundesliga, football as it's meant to be. Catch Borussia Dortmund versus FSV Mainz on Friday, 13 February at 9:30 p.m. Live on SABC Plus and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Hurry! Get supersized savings at Spar for 4 days only. Get 2 litre Spar sunflower oil for $64.99. Save 15 Rand. Or 10 kg Spar Super Maize Meal for $74.99. Save 25 Rand. Price is valid from 13 till 16 February while stocks last. Max 5 deals per product per customer. Only at Spar. T's and C's apply.
Ashraf Garda is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio.
Right, we've got a few minutes more with Dr. Pali Lahotla on the Fireside Chat. You need to catch this podcast even after we're done and share it with your friends and family over the weekend. There's so much that's come out of it. So, I often use this opportunity here, Pali, about asking people to give a shout out to a young person, a young South African who impresses you. So give me a name of a young person that so impresses you.
Oh, well, I think Siakoli, sir, shows what we can be made of under different leadership. He really shows that. I don't know who else, but Siakoli, sir, I think for me, makes it for me that this country can actually go forward, and we can be a multiracial society that taps into our potential.
So interesting you mention him, because I had a chat with someone that in fact, but I will not mention who without permission, and he spoke yesterday to me about the fact that the Springboks are the gold standard for all things in South African excellence across the board. If we want to be champions in anything, we must emulate the Springboks, including education, including agriculture and economic growth and safety and security. Find out what is it they're doing and learn from them. Do you agree with that?
Me, and I think that cap that Mandela had with what was
Francois Pienaar, yes.
Francois Pienaar is the message. However, let me say, it is this same month that the daughter of Madiba, Makazi, wins the case to go and sell the memorabilia. And that sale is not an indictment on Makazi. You know, in 2021, by midnight, I'd stopped the sale of those items. I talked to Natim Teto, I said, stop this, and he did. I thought that the government will step back, think hard again about legacy, and at least share the legacy of Madiba with his children. But they ignored it. So Madiba stands at Sandton Square, facing Horton, where there are battles over how his houses have to be maintained. And then, I mean, how do we behave as society? Surely there's something fundamentally wrong with us. If we cannot preserve legacy and not respect it in the way we have it, we can only be defined as a vulture culture.
Well, why is it important to preserve legacy?
Legacy is so crucial. Look at the Afrikaners. They have that legacy of theirs, well, including still symbols of apartheid. Anyone in the world who matters, preserve legacy. And if there's something that apartheid did to us, is to despise legacy. And it shows when an iconic person like Madiba, standing at the square in Sandton, just a stone throw, spitting distance from where he stands, where he had his last breath. Because I think people who come, they want to know, where did this man end his life? Where did his life end? It ended in Horton. And everybody would like to go and see there. And what do they find? Overgrown grass, people fighting. I mean, he is our reflection. He is ours. And he said, don't preserve my legacy, correctly so. But he didn't mean that we should desecrate his legacy in the way we are doing, so that his legacy should be administered in courts of law, where his daughter has to preserve Kunu, where we were in our thousands to bury him. And Kunu is soon forgotten. And it takes his daughter to say, perhaps I should now preserve the legacy of my father.
What about
where are we now, we as society? Even the 67 minutes is going to disappear.
Wow. Give me a book you'd suggest we must read. We have a very reading-loving audience here. A book they must read?
You should go and read the book by what is this man? The African journalist. He's written a book on Moslomi. And he calls him the Aristotle of the Free State. That book tells you about responsible leadership. It distinguishes leadership from everything else and says, how is responsible leadership? And the letter that I'm talking about, Ashraf, that I presented the other day at ENCA, was about how it is drawn out of 2,752 instruments that talk to responsible leadership and draws from Moslomi's philosophy. And I think when we start doing that and welding those 2,752 instruments on the 80 households across the country, clusters of 80 households, 130,000 of those, then we will know where our ailments are. And then there will be medicine. The village is the medicine. That's what Moslomi says.
Give me a quote, your quote, that you just love repeating.
Well, I think my father embedded this code in me. That you know, when he woke us up, when he woke us up to go and mow wheat very early, and you are still asleep, and then he will quote Lord Kevin and say, "Great, achievements by great men were not by sudden flight, but they, while their companions were sleeping, They were scaffolding up through the night. That's Lord Kirby. And then the second one is when your knowledge cannot be quantified, it is of a meager type. It is not the beginning. Even when you quantify, that knowledge is still only the beginning of knowledge. You've got to bring analysis into this. And I think South African government has hardly scratched its knowledge base because it doesn't quantify, it doesn't look at integrated reporting, because when you don't integrate, you give room for lies.
Okay, we're going to end now. Just the last thing, you spoke about legacy. What's the legacy Party Lahotla wants to leave? How would you like people to remember you? You got 30 seconds.
No, Ashraf, I don't think I need to be remembered as anything. I think what I remember South Africa for is giving me an opportunity to actually organize its heartbeats, which are the numbers. And that's why I defend them so hard. Because that opportunity is not an opportunity that you are given and you play with.
Organize the numbers. That's the heartbeat. Party Lahotla, your time's up. I'm sure we'll have another chat sometime soon, as we often do on the National Pulse and other things. But it's been fascinating getting into your mind for a full hour. A real privilege. And that podcast will be up soon. Thank you for your time. Much appreciated. There we are. Party Lahotla, Fireside Chat. Get the podcast. It'll be up ASAP, and share it with your friends and download it and to your networks. Have a great weekend, okay? We'll catch you Monday, 3 p.m. Set your alarms now for that. Here's the news with Greg.
Thanks again. Ashraf Mbeki joined Zuma in TRC inquiry review application and proposed amendments to the Credit Act welcomed. Good evening. Former President Thabo Mbeki's filed papers in the High Court in Johannesburg, joining former President Jacob Zuma's review